Hey, everybody, welcome in. So good to see everybody. We are super excited about tonight's live. We've got so much new information to talk about and just putting together the puzzle. All the puzzle pieces are starting to come together in Kyron's case.
Perfectly said. Nice to see you all. It's been a while, and happy to have everybody with us this Friday. Bigfoot Barbecue, hello, and Kathy and Connie in the comments. Nice to see your familiar faces join us tonight,
Yeah,
or
we are
familiar
super
names, I should
excited.
say.
Yeah, familiar names. Hello, everybody. Yeah, evil exposed. The new evidence connects the dots. That is tonight's live. It is October 4th. It's shortly after 7 p.m. And there has been so much going on with Kyron's case this summer. Of course, right when we decide we're going to take a little bit of a break, but guess what? So much information that we actually needed the time off to really investigate, fact check, and just, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's perfectly said. It was I mean, really though, it really has been a lot of like revelations and a lot of like connecting dots over the summer of things that have occurred over the summer. Desiree gave some wonderful appearances to a true crime fest here in the Pacific Northwest that we'll get into. And yeah, it's been a lot. And man, it's been so much that Terri deactivated her Facebook in hiding over this.
Yes,
Um,
September 16th, completely deactivated her Facebook.
she's gone. She
Like,
doesn't
and when
want.
you when you deactivate it, that means your comments are gone, everything you've posted in a certain group or anywhere gone. It's not like just deleting your Facebook where everything still stands for like 60 to 90 days. Like, it is gone. Everything
Yeah,
she put in that other group completely gone. Thank God. Me, Kaylia, other admins, other people in our group have screenshotted and taken as many screenshots as possible when it comes to everything like that Terri talked about.
hmm
But
right. A lot of the screenshots we'll be showing tonight are ones that we've had in our own bank of Terri comments because she was giving information, she was contradicting herself. Um, and Samantha and I were talking a little earlier. I joked, I think every single comment she made was probably screenshotted by the community of Kyron supporters. So she can run, but she can't hide type thing with her digital footprint, you know?
yeah, Bigfoot Barbecue says we, as hunters, have put out a Facebook call to all hunters to be on the lookout for bones as we are missing several children. Thank you so much. That's a good
Yes.
reminder, hunters. If you're out there, do not touch anything. Call 911 immediately if you see anything out there. And if you have any tips in Kyron's case, please call the Multnomah County Sheriff's Office at 503-988-0560. And Alicia, I could not agree with you more. I don't know how many times I've told Kaylee and other people that the Sebastian Rogers case reminds me so much of Kyron's case, and they look a lot alike. Sebastian and Kyron look a lot alike, and I look over Sebastian's case all the time. We are always praying for there to be justice in Sebastian's case as well, or him be found.
Right. Yeah. He basically looks like Kyron if Kyron would have been able to, be around to be the same age as Sebastian. They definitely look a lot alike and share a lot of, just interesting details that make you go, hmm.
Yeah. I'm just going to throw up this clip right now. I'm going to mute it, but we're going to talk as it's playing. And it's pretty much um, the pressure that has been being put on Terri here recently down in Clear Lake, California. Desiree has been down to Clear Lake, California here recently, and they have protested outside of her house. Stacy Green, that runs another Kyron page, has also had people from her group taking pictures of taking pictures of Terri, sorry, and following her around in her car. And then after, oh my gosh,
Terri! Terri! Where's Kyron at? Terri, where's Kyron at? Where's Kyron?
That is just a perfect example.
Yeah, that gets me every single time. I mean, that person honked not once, not twice, but gave her 3 honks, and she would not look for anything.
Yeah. And I mean, they are taking pictures of her at the grocery store, at the bank, in her car, at stoplights, her car, in the parking lots. And Desiree and Stacy Green and several other women went down to Clear Lake, California. Now, Desiree did the same thing to Terri in Roseburg back in the day. Went in front of the house.
Moved.
Yep. And that ugly green car, Kelly Dimes says. I like the car. I just don't like the person that drives it. And it's just crazy to me that the pressure is just so back on. And by the end of this live, you guys are definitely going to see why. There's lots of new things being said, lots of new evidence that Desiree has shared. But one piece of evidence in particular, we're not going to give that one away quite yet. But this is them in front of Terri's house in Clear Lake, California.
Yeah, and this is, some people may think this is controversial, but I want to take a moment to point out how many unsolved crimes, pressure from the public or pressure from the family of the victims is what led to the justice that their victims ended up getting. So, and if my son was missing and I knew who did it, there's no way that you would ever shut me up either. You would never be able to run far enough away from me to not do the same thing and remind you of what happened. You took my son, you took my child, and I'm not going to let you forget it as long as we're waiting for justice.
Yeah, and I think Desiree's just gotten to the point where she's just frustrated now that new evidence has came out and nothing's been done by this new DA. She's like, you know what? Frig it. Like, I am just going to start talking about some things. Maybe I shouldn't be talking about them, but I'm just going to because, yeah, it's unbelievable the things that have been going on. Let me take this clip down.
Before we move on, just real quick, I'm sure a lot of people have Netflix, and if you want to watch a great show, it's the oh, sorry, I actually pulled it up to get their title right, and Netflix started playing. Sorry. But I think it's like Into the Fire, My Lost Daughter. And it's the same thing. It's a mother who never shut up, and her relentlessness led to justice for her daughter. So, like I said, that's why I fully support this. I fully support the pressure being on Terri. I think it's absolutely amazing to see. And it's getting to her because, like we said, she deactivated her Facebook and she's been MIA pretty much since. Kelly Dime, there are no billboards in her city. She lives in a pretty small city called Clear Lake in Lake County, California, and there are billboards like on some of the highways going to bigger cities, but there are absolutely none in Clear Lake. In fact, Terri lives on a gravel dirt road. There's not even a Google Street View in front of her house. She's out there.
Desiree and her crew put up some flyers of Kyron in the neighborhood, but they got all taken down. I guess you could imagine who that was.
Over
That
and
took
over.
them. Yeah, over and
Right.
over again, because there's somebody there that continuously keeps posting them and they keep getting taken down. Here is another funny thing I wanted to share with you guys. Because of the pressure that has been on Terri decided to go have the stripes on her car removed and her
Yeah.
windows
And
tinted.
50% of the windshield. And then she wanted to go ahead and remove these stripes. So we're gonna let this cook in the sun for a little bit, remove these stripes, and then pull it in for the tint. But we'll keep you guys updated.
I cannot believe she had the stripes removed. But you have the Rex Trex, license plate. And
It's still
there's
bright
people
green.
that watch her. What's even more amazing is that this person that does this to her car knows who she is, contacts Stacy Green, and lets her know that this is what Terri did. So it lasted all of the day.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. You can't tell me that she's not feeling the heat right now. And we've kind of noticed because her behavior totally changed after the new DA was elected in May. And then Desiree dropped her, her first big interview that basically gave so many new details. And I think it was Mother's Day that she ended up doing that or releasing that interview. And so those were right around the same time of each other. And basically since then, Terri's total demeanor online had shifted.
Yeah. It's crazy the fact that she deactivated her Facebook. We were all blown away. Earlier that morning, she had been online. She was responding to a post over in the Terri supporter group. Somebody was actually talking about whether or not there was any kind of abuse or anything like that going on over at Desiree and Tony's house, which is Kyron's mom and her husband. And Terri posted 100%. And then shortly after that, I posted over in my group some of the new evidence that Desiree Young has spoken about. And not very long after that, boom, she was gone. Everything deactivated. So I don't know if it had something to do with what I posted, if something happened that day that made her think she needed to deactivate or what. But I personally think she did not hear what was actually said at Northwest or the Northwest Crime Fest and heard it. And I just think she crapped her pants. That's my opinion. Maybe it wasn't my post. Maybe it was. But the fact that she was up earlier that day posting like nothing had happened to completely deactivating is just absolutely crazy. You got anything else to say about her deactivating her Facebook?
No, I just am curious if and when she'll return, if this was, under the advice of an attorney, if this was something she decided herself just to kind of go more low profile. I'm very interested to know the
She's
absolute.
out there using her fake profiles.
Oh, we already have some. I mean, like, I know a lot of, I know there's a joke like, oh, if you don't agree with, what people are saying, then you get accused of being Terri. I get that. But you know what? Our sleuthing skills are pretty good, and we even are pretty sure we know a few of Terri's fake profiles, like with some proof. So don't you worry. We got our eyes on you.
Thank you, Connie, for being a member for 4 months. Thank you so much. We appreciate you so much, and thank you for being here and modding for us tonight.
Yes, you're so loyal to our channel. You are here, like every single time we're live, we get to see you here. And then also your support during Kyron's anniversary live. That was amazing as well. You're just our awesome mod, and we appreciate you.
Yep, she can run, but she can't hide. We appreciate everything you're doing. I am ready to start sharing some new information. How about you, Kaylia?
Oh, that's the whole main part of this show. I'm so excited.
There is some of this information I was talking to her about tonight. She didn't even know was out there. So even Kaylia doesn't know some of the new information. But I want to throw this clip up because this is so very telling. And I'm going to start at the Northwest Crime Fest that Desiree was at. And this is actually talking about the day that Kyron disappeared.
First night, we brought in several canine teams and had searched the house. This is super critical, especially in a missing child case, to search the house as a secondary scene. And here's some of my law enforcement coming out, so sorry to bore you with the dry details.
Can you guys let me know if you guys can hear this? Well, I had to turn up my headphones. Just wondering, can you hear it good, Kaylia?
But you'll lose critical pieces of evidence if you don't investigate that house and search it many times. So here's a lesson learned, right? They didn't get on Terri right away. This is what's unusual. Terri had washed every stitch of clothing Kyron ever owned. Everything. All of his bedding. This is what's unusual. Terri had washed every stitch of clothing Kyron ever owned. Everything. All of his bedding, all of his clothes, his backpack that was at the school, washed. His coat, washed. All piled up on his bed, not folded, but washed. Now, the canine teams are looking for a scent article, right? Yeah. That's why that's critical. You gotta lock down the house right away. You've gotta search it. You don't let people in there to mess with your scene. It made it very challenging for us. We've even gotten heat in the media because of it, because one of these independent guys wanted to help us and bring out dog teams. Well, we weren't against it. We didn't have anything to give him. We had no scent article.
Terri Horman washed every stitch of clothing that Kyron owned, including his bedding and the backpack and coat that he had taken to school that day, that she went up to the school after he didn't get off of the bus. When she went there with Kane, she decided to grab that backpack and coat, and she had washed everything. No scent article. Now, this is just the first night. They did end up having a scent article later on, but imagine all of your clothes. Everything in your closet, everything in your dresser, all of the clothes that you owned. How many loads of laundry would that be for you? It would be a lot for me.
Yeah.
It would be a lot for any of my daughters or my son with their children to take the time to do that. Now, I've had people mention like a brush or a comb, shoes. For whatever reason, this is what Desiree talks about. There was no scent article that the dogs could use that night that he came up missing. And the key thing that she's trying to also talk about here is Terri was let back into the house that night after he disappeared. Now, I know in the Madeline Soto case, they made Madeline Soto's mom and her boyfriend leave the house for the night. They had to go get a hotel room and everything. That was not done here. Everybody was allowed to be in the house. Law enforcement was in the house. Terri and Kate were in the house. Friends were in the house. People from the school were in the house.
They came over to show support, and they didn't think of the house as a potential crime scene or a potential they didn't consider that. Like she said, at the very beginning, they weren't sure what happened, and they didn't go to Terri right off the bat. But can you imagine? And it just popped in my head. Terri, excuse me, she gave an interview to, I think it was People magazine, where it's the one where she's wearing the blue and it's actually printed in a magazine. We have it on our Facebook. I'll reshare it for those who want to read it because it's a doozy. She even says in there, when asked, why did you drive the baby around the roads? She answers saying, what am I supposed to do? Go home and do laundry to kill time? Well, what did you end up doing? You ended up going home and doing laundry. In fact, you did all of the laundry, every single bit of it.
Desiree Young even talks about after she arrives there, her mom needed to do some laundry because, Desiree shows up with Tony, and I believe they even brought Quinn with them at the time. So there was a lot of people in the house. But during the 2-week stay at the Horman's house, Desiree, Tony, mom had also came. Terri wasn't allowing anybody to go down into the basement, would not allow Desiree's mom to go downstairs and do her laundry. It's just another, it's insane.
That's
This
very,
is, to
yeah.
me, is crazy. Could you imagine being law enforcement? You're there, whatever, you walk into Kyron's room to look around or whatever, and you just see like a big, huge pile of clothes, everything out of the closet, everything out of the dressers, like every stitch of clothing is what she's saying. So that's what I'm picturing in my head. Like there's nothing but a pile of clothes and there's no clothes anywhere else. That would be a huge red flag.
Yes.
Huge.
I'm sure it was. I'm sure that raised suspicion for everybody around. That's very strange.
Yeah, it is.
I never do all my kids' laundry all at once. Like, yeah, that it would just be so suspicious. Of course, it's just one of those coincidences I always joke about. Terri's like, she's a master of coincidences, man. She's the luckiest and the unluckiest, because she's lucky because she gets away with basically freaking everything, it seems. And she's unlucky, if according to her, because she's taking the heat for this crime she didn't do, quote unquote. I'm just making.
Yeah, Connie thinks she should have been taken in for doing the laundry. I would have
Oh,
definitely
yeah.
taken her and putting her in a room and started asking her some pretty heated questions. That's for sure.
Well, she was getting interviewed pretty quick. I don't know if it was that night, but I know that they did start, giving her some interviews, or some interrogations, and making her talk and speak for hours.
Here's another thing that I learned that I was actually really happy to learn, because this is something that we've talked about. And I don't know if you heard this one, Kalia, but Desiree Young confirms exactly where law enforcement told her that Terri was parked that day that Kyron disappeared.
Mm-mm.
You are looking at the school. The school's on Skyline, right? There's a little road to the left of the school that goes to the soccer fields. Mm-hmm. So as they were walking out the east entrance, they're coming down this way. And so they were walking, so the explanation or the description that law enforcement gave me, because I asked the same specific literal question, they explained it to me in this fashion, is Jennifer, the bus driver, said, Kyron was walking with her, which wasn't a surprise to her. Kyron was walking as if walking with her, but not holding her hand. She was holding on to Kiara. But they were walking together the same direction and down the sidewalk toward the street, which was odd, right? Because she didn't realize that Terri was parked off of Skyline and on that front little dirt road that goes to the soccer fields.
Confirmed that she was parked on that access road in front of the school. We have shown pictures of it. We have done a live and talked about this access road. One of the lives that we did, I think we called it Ground Zero. Right. It's one of our lives around all the school, and it also has the access road. But this access road is important because when you pull up Access Road, it's kind of like a bend there. And where you're at, it goes up in elevation, and there's a huge hillside on the other side of it. So getting Kyron into the truck, nobody coming and going on Skyline Boulevard would have seen Kyron getting into the truck. And law enforcement has spoken about whether there was or wasn't a person in the truck that moved the truck up to Access Road because they thought at one time the truck was parked directly in front of the school. Now, I'm not saying it still wasn't, but now we know when they left the school after 8:45, after the picture of Kyron was taken, that truck was parked on Access Road. This is confirmation that that's where the truck was parked. That's what Desiree Young was told by law enforcement. For me, that's a huge key piece of evidence or information because we have made a lot of guesses about whether or not her truck was actually moved up Access Road or not. So this
Right.
just kind of confirms it.
Yeah. Because like you said, it just is, I mean, it already is kind of, I mean, really hard to see just right there in front of the school on Skyline Boulevard directly. But if she didn't want to be like, like what's always said, no one saw her actually drive away with Kyron. We don't have to. We are able to deduce 2 + 2 = 4. And that makes total sense. She didn't want anybody to see him hop back into that white truck and drive away with her. That was the whole point.
And there's absolutely no way you would, the way that
Yeah.
road bends. Like I said, we have talked about it several times before. Now, we have talked several times also about, and I'm sorry, you guys, we're going to be moving from one subject to another and going all over. Everything will come together in the end because we have really been able to put lots of puzzle pieces together here, especially from about 2017 to current. But we're going to talk about these little bitty tiny little things moving around from subject to subject, and then we're really going to get into the really big evidence that was revealed by Desiree Young. And trust me, you want to stay for it because it literally proves that Kyron left with Terri. I'll just put that to you. James has been spoken about. That is Terri's son. I took this small clip because Desiree mentions James, and it just really gave me the creeps the way that she talked about him because I've worked with James. I've spoken to him in messages. I've spoke to him on the phone. I've spoke to him in a group chat. I actually worked with him doing case studies and stuff, and he came out and about, keep this date in mind, right around 2022, which is when we think big evidence was found. So here's that clip.
James is just like his mom. She is a sociopath. James, unfortunately, is as well. And he has surfaced and provided threats and other things. And so when we've done events sometimes downtown and stuff, we've actually had to have law enforcement around us because he has threatened to act on certain things. And so it's unfortunate, but you know, Quinn is very familiar and knows that if he ever reaches out to just, you know, not engage. I don't understand what motivates him at this point to really even be involved at all, but I think it's really just about that narcissism and the attraction.
It was just really creepy to me after working with him because when you're working with him, you see what a nice guy he is, the way that he talks. You know, even Kaylee has talked and spoken with him in messages, and he's really laid back and stuff. But she ends up calling him a psychopath, just like Terri. And she even goes on to talk about how they had to have law enforcement show up at events because he would threaten them. And this is what blew my mind because I never saw James as a person that would, you know, get violent or something.
I know, right? I don't have any interactions with James except for one message I've exchanged with him. when I was trying to fact check some information. And he responded, and I have seen him comment. I've seen his interview. He did an interview, uh, which we've clipped several times in our lives and stuff. And yeah, he seemed pretty level-headed to me, but as you can see right there, I mean, I'm not trying to judge anybody because we all have gone through stuff, but you've heard his tumultuous upbringing. He didn't live like a super stable upbringing with his mom. He had several different men throughout his life. His mom was obviously suffering from alcoholism when she got into a DUI with him in the car. Um, and then he goes on to talk about abuse that he endured, like physical abuse and like, I guess would it be psychological abuse? I don't know.
I
Where,
would call it mental abuse, some of the stuff
yeah,
she put him through.
yeah. So I mean, it sounds like he went through a lot. So it when you have traumatic upbringings, sometimes it plays out in your adulthood in different ways. And Quinn is sitting right there, which is, Kyron's blood brother. That's Desiree's other older son. That's Kyron's older brother. And he's just sitting there agreeing with her, like, yeah, I know if he reaches out, I'm not going to reply or anything. Like, he is not a safe person, it sounds like. I'm just surprised to hear
Right.
it too, because it's a good facade that he put on.
Yeah, and we've even heard stories about him, walking into the far end of the property or out into the woods by their house and knowing that Kyron doesn't like to be left alone or get lost,
Right.
him walking away from Kyron. It was either he walked away from Kyron or he made Kyron think that they were lost while they were walking the property or something like that. But scaring Kyron was a thing, and it happened multiple times that we've seen talked about before. So, I mean, yeah. I wanted to leave Callie Dime's question up here, so it reminded me to go back. Yes, Callie, the bus driver saw Kyron walking away with Terri. So did one of Kyron's friends, and Kyron's friend's grandmother and sister also saw them walking through the parking lot to go down to the road to then go down to this access road, which, like Desiree says, Jennifer, the bus driver, just thought it was really odd that they were walking down towards the road. Maybe she knew that wasn't a place where she normally parked or something. I don't know.
And also, kind of while we're on the topic, or I don't know if I was kind of going off on a bird walk in my brain, but I wanted to bring this up real quick. Um, we had the opportunity to hear firsthand some information that we'll get into at a later date, perhaps. I think you know what I'm talking about, Samantha. That confirms Desiree's account of what happened that morning. It's from a person that was there that matches this last time that Kyron was seen as well. So this person isn't like the last person that saw Kyron, but from what we've been able to verify and hear from that person, it matches completely this entire scenario. What Desiree
Oh, yeah.
said happened to Kyron that morning and how Kyron left with Terri from the classroom right after the picture was taken, and went out the door.
Yeah. And, just bringing that up, we can bring up a few other things. Like me and Kaylia may not have been working doing live streams, but we have definitely been working, and we have
Yes.
been doing lots of research. We're doing a lot of stuff in the background right now. Kaylia actually recently started working at a courthouse. Woohoo! And
Yeah.
the things she is learning while she's started working there is absolutely insane. The way
Yeah.
that she's learning about how law enforcement uses Facebook and other social medias to be able to go after people. when
Yeah.
necessary. Just all kinds
I
of stuff. How to file
all
and
kinds
get
of stuff.
information. Oh my God.
It's been invaluable to my understanding of the investigation. And, just imagining, like, we had the War Room Live, if you're interested in hearing about what, how big Kyron's investigation has been throughout the years. And that these things that we were talking about at that time were still years ago. So I can only imagine the amount of progress they've made since then, right? And yeah, I'm really grateful for the opportunity to work where I work now, and learn these things, and really get an inner look at this kind of stuff. In fact, I am going to be going to a trial here coming up in the next couple weeks, and I will be sitting in the courtroom. It is a trial for a cold case murder, and the crime happened in 1989, and they're finally just now convicting the person. So it's just a really cool opportunity. It is, I'm learning a lot. I think it is, our justice system is amazing. It takes as long as it takes, and we just have to trust that our law enforcement is doing the work. Trust me, they are doing the work. We might not be able to see it yet, but the amount of man hours that go into investigation is truly like, whew, hard to wrap your brain around.
I know I feel like I am so lucky right now to have you as my partner, with you learning all of the new insides and outs, and just everything that we're able to do now, everything you're learning that we're able to use as a tool to get the information that we're looking for is so valuable. And we are so proud of you. Congratulations on your
Thank
new
you.
job. I'm so glad that you did decide that you wanted to talk about it, because I've been so excited since you started your new job. And
Thank you.
it's just,
Me too.
it's not only going to help us with what we do, it's going to help children, because we're going to be able to bring even more awareness to these children by being able to know how to get information, to fact check, to like really get to know these cases and stuff. So
Right.
I'm just super happy
Oh,
for you, for us.
it's been an awesome experience, and perfect segment. I definitely am, like, I'm loving what I'm learning about how to what the public does have access to out there. And like you were saying, Samantha, we might not have been live, but yeah, we were definitely working behind the scenes, and we
You
have
have
some really great lives coming up. And it's not easy to bring quote unquote new information to a 14-year-old case, but when we say we've been working on some really interesting new information I think you guys would love to hear, we mean it. So yeah, we plan on coming back to our regular live schedule,
yeah,
or at
and
least somewhat.
we have we how do I put this? We are going to eventually be able to possibly do, I say going to, and then possibly, hopefully, we are going to be able to do a few interviews with some people we are in the works with now to get these interviews done, which is going to bring a lot of information about Kyron's case, but more importantly, it's going to bring a lot of information about Terri and who she is. But
Mhm.
anyway, let's get back into the rest of this information that we got. So this is more Northwest Crime Fest, and this is talking about, somebody asked Desiree a question if Terri Horman had a history of like being a criminal, and this was Desiree's answer to her question.
Do you have any criminal activities prior to Kyron's disappearance?
Yes, she did. Terri is well known to law enforcement. When she was living in Roseburg and with her parents still, she tried to kill her parents by burning down the house. Yeah. And law enforcement was going to charge her, except the parents would not follow through. She failed polygraphs. She couldn't answer for what had happened. The circumstances were highly questionable.
I just want to pause here. Yes, you heard it right. Terri tried to kill her parents in a fire. This is a clipping. Garage fire causes $10,500 damage. A fire in the garage in a home in, the Hillcrest area this morning caused about $10,500 worth of damage. The Rosemary Fire Department responded to a 7:38 a.m. call reporting a fire with the address. I should have actually redacted that, but Selwood Street, 12 firefighters arrived with 2 engines and 1 truck and had the fire under control in about 10 minutes. Now, Terri has denied this, but like you just heard, she said, okay, so I've heard about this fire. I've heard that her parents were in the house and that she could have possibly been trying to kill her parents. I've never heard anybody come straight up and say they were going to press charges against Terri, that she felt polygraph tests. Her parents didn't want to go after her. And if you guys don't know it, haven't heard it in our other lives, her parents were enablers. Complete and total enablers. So
Yeah.
This was huge information. I had never heard it just straight up.
Right.
And
Just as a matter of fact, that I know, right? And I believe that the police did do a thorough deep dive on the things that had occurred in Terri's life in the past. And they probably, failing polygraphs and stuff over it, that's insane.
oh, you guys were talking. I am the one who has had COVID for the last 2 weeks. I am just now getting over it. I have to go to the doctor because I'm still coughing so bad. But everybody's mind's blown over here. And
it's crazy.
Our admin, Heidi, was going to join us tonight, but she ended up having her asthma, something triggered it tonight, so she wasn't able to come. But she did find Terri actually talking about the fire, and Terri says, wow, okay, she's reaching a new low. Probably should do your research before running your mouth like you know anything factual. I have no clue who she's talking about, and this was a very old clip, so I don't think it's Desiree. But she says, my parents were in Los Molinos, California, and I was asleep in the house. So not only do I have witnesses from my neighbors, I used one of their phones to call my parents. You could hear fire trucks in the background, and the neighbors spoke with my mom on the phone. So she's denying that her parents were even there. But you tell me, why are you failing polygraph tests? Why are the police trying to go after you? You know, deflection. She's constantly deflecting when it comes to anything going to get her in trouble or getting caught doing something. And then Desiree actually goes on a little bit more, so I'll finish playing some other things that she has done in the past before Kyron's disappearance.
And so she had done that, and then there was also a murder for hire plot. She had been sleeping with someone who was too young, and she had an ex-con try and kill him. She lures him to a park, and the guy is going to have a romantic lunch with her. Well, he started becoming a nuisance. I guess he was too attached, and I can't remember what law enforcement said she said, but there was something there that he was getting too attached, and it was becoming a nuisance to her. And so she gets this ex-con to show up at the park while they're having this romantic lunch, and the ex-con pulls out the gun to shoot this guy, and this guy actually tried to protect Terri and get in front of her And she goes, "You idiot, he's here for you." Oh yeah. She's a special person.
It's just so crazy. I was telling Kaylee earlier today, it's like she has 9 lives. She doesn't get in trouble for a damn thing that she does. And actually, this Roseburg 1990 thing didn't come out until after Kyron disappeared, even though it had happened in 1990, because this person that was hired was in prison who spoke about it to somebody else who they ended up finding out about this guy, ex-boyfriend in 1990, interviewed him, flew him up here. Roseburg hasn't even went after the guy or went after Terri or anything because all of his information is being held over and for Kyron's case.
Yeah.
Because law enforcement has talked to him and put it there in the case. And
I'm pretty sure he testified to the grand jury. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yes, the cases are definitely intertwined. The Roseburg Police Department denied Kylie Boshi's public record request because stating the ongoing investigation of Kyron Horman. So yeah, they are looking at it closely. And in my experience, just like we were saying earlier, from what I've been able to see, if an inmate comes to report this information, like if they say this happened, somebody said this to me, they take it serious, and yeah, they go even open an investigation to verify that the credibility of that happened. And guess what? Prisons have cameras all over them, like everywhere. So
Right.
they're not going to just take this prisoner's word for it. They didn't even give the guy like any deal for saying anything. So
Right.
yeah,
It's
just think about
just
all that.
crazy. And Callie Dime is saying, like, what did they say was the cause of the fire? Don't know what they said the cause of the fire was at all. And yes, she has had other murder for hires against her, which murder for hires in Oregon do not have a statutes of limitation, so they will be able to prosecute for the one in 1990 and the 3 that are against Kane Horman, Kyron's father. There was also another one that Joseph Cristal, one of Terry's other ex-boyfriends, said that Terri tried to get him to kill Stacy Green, which is the advocate for another Kyron Horman page on Facebook. So yes, multiple. And I mean, and this is just what we know about, you guys. This is just what we know about. So here she is. She has tried to kill her parents. There's another murder for hire in 1990, which we've actually talked about that quite a bit. Yes, 3 against Kane, and 1 was a week prior to Kyron's disappearance. 1 was Rudy Sanchez, and then there's 3 murder for hires by 3 different men, the last one being a week prior to Kyron's disappearance. And if you haven't watched the Doug Bishop interview that Desiree Young did, then I would suggest go and watch that, or watch the one that we did where we played and we talked about it, because we know a lot of information. So we kind of talk about everything that Desiree says, and we kind of break it down for people that don't know the case or people that know the case well, to just show like this goes with this, this goes with that. These are the puzzle pieces falling together.
Right, truly.
And why is the woman still walking free with lack of evidence?
I was about to read the same comment. And yeah, lack of evidence. I was watching a documentary where it was talking about like, I think it wasn't a cold case, but it was like a long it took a long time for them to be able to officially close the case, because they knew what, kind of like Kyron. I can't even tell you which one it was. It was something on Netflix, but the guy said, I don't have a crime scene. I don't have a body. I don't have a murder weapon. I don't have the three things, or even, I don't even have one of the three things that I think I would need to prosecute and win. And if they don't feel confident, and in fact, I've scoured the legal documents that have come through the civil matters of this case, like the divorces and the civil suits. And there's a judge that was talking to Kane and Terri's attorneys, and Kane was asking the court to renew the restraining order against Terri, and Terri's attorneys were trying to fight it and say no. Kane would basically, the judge asked, do you have reason to believe that she is involved with Kyron's disappearance? And Kane said, I have even more reason to believe now than I did when I originally did this restraining order 2 years ago. And Terri's attorneys objected and said, that's not fair. You're not asking him if he's afraid or anything like that, some certain things about like qualifications of a restraining order. And the judge said, well, with all due respect, Kane is scared, obviously, because his son is missing. And B, the reason that there's no charges pressed against Terri is because the evidence, even though Kane is saying there's reason to believe this, the standard is beyond a reasonable doubt. And a prosecutor is never going to bring a case unless they know for sure they have that bar. So, yeah, there is no crime scene for Kyron's. I mean, yeah, the school, but she didn't do it at the school.
Right.
We don't have Kyron, and we don't have even the way that he passed away. If it did, so I totally see the cautiousness of the situation. It's delicate, right? They have just one chance, and Multnomah County in particular in Oregon, they like to overstack their deck. Excuse me. They like to overstack their deck.
Yeah, LaTanya here is asking if she didn't want anybody to go down in the basement, maybe she did something to him in the basement. And I actually thought the same thing, but we know that we now know of other evidence, which I think we should let's show them that evidence, because then we're going to put the puzzle pieces together to show you guys how this fits in with everything else, with Dede and everything. So I'm going to pull up a couple of clips, and they're all going to be about Dede Spicer. So Dede Spicer was Terri Horman's friend. She was missing during the same unaccounted time, if not longer, than Terri was missing that day. And Terri Horman's unaccounted time is the time she was driving around. They don't know where she was or what she was doing. And Dede Spicer was supposed to be at work. Somebody saw her abruptly leave her work. Desiree Young is now saying Terri Horman picked her up from her work. And we have, oh my gosh, this is just going to blow you guys away. So let me just start with these cell phones. You guys may have heard this. We did do a live on this, but I want to play this before I go into, let me just find it here. Let me see. And then we're going to talk some about Dede's immunity, because we found out some new information about the immunity. We have found out about GIS technology, other technology that's been used. We have found out so much, you guys. It's awesome. So this is Desiree Young on the Doug Bishop interview, where she is talking about Dede Spicer.
I've ruled out every parent that was in the school that day, every registered sex offender in the area, every house that neighbors up to the school, They have ruled out every single possible other person except one. I should say two. Terry's friend, with Dede Spicer. You don't get Dede without Terri. In fact, they've had a personal relationship physically. As far as I'm aware, Dede was 2 miles from the school on Germantown Road, working at a property where she was landscaping for them. She was also missing during the same period of time that Terri was. The people on the property always have lunch together in their central location, and they were trying to locate her, and she was missing.
Okay.
And they tried calling her, and she didn't answer. Her phone was on the property. Her car was on the property, but Dede was nowhere to be found, and they looked everywhere. It's our understanding through information I've had turned over to me during searches that she was picked up by Terri from her job on that property. In the DA's office, they believed at the time that they could get her to flip on Terri. Several weeks later, they made an agreement with Dede Spicer for immunity. Here's the problem with that. As you're investigating, you're getting evidence, you're obtaining new information, new interviews, all the things, right? And now, today, what we can say is there's physical evidence that is involving her. From what I understand, Dede Spicer said Terri was using throwaway phones and had loaded it with minutes and was using that to communicate with people. They were able to acquire the phones. Dede took them where they dumped them. I don't know when the phones were dumped. They got access to them a couple of weeks after Kyron went missing. There's communication connected to photos that were stored on the phone that is the physical evidence in the case. It's all things that imply guilt. It's all things showing conceal and lie and deceit. All of it is circumstantial, which is unfortunate. And then she proceeds to plead the fifth. She doesn't want people to know what she is.
I've always known that Dede Spicer was just a monster. She's always creeped me out. But we know, because Desiree Young has told us, and we are going to believe what Desiree Young tells us because she's Kyron's mom. She has no reason to lie about it. So we take her word for it the majority of the time. But a lot of this has also been proven just by the puzzle pieces going together, that Terri and Dede had phones, burner phones, on the day that Kyron disappeared. They also had burner phones when Kane found out about the murder for hire plot against him that Terri had plotted against him. He left with Kiara, filed for divorce, and got a restraining order. Dede then moved in with Terri for 11 days. And during that time, more burner phones were bought, not just by Dede, but also by another one of Terry's friends. That friend told law enforcement about these burner phones. She says they bought these phones with cash and under a fake name. She said 2 more were purchased the day afterwards when her and Dede went down, but that was not her. She didn't have anything to do with that. So 2 were bought one time, 2 more were bought. So keep up with it. We've got burner phones on the 4th, the day that Kyron disappeared. And then there were 2 more purchases for phones when Dede moves in with Terri, when Kane is gone, when they're having like this mini, slumber party, acting like girls, sexting, doing all of this crazy stuff with Michael Cook. When there's a boy missing, they're not out putting up flyers. They're not doing anything but hanging out, having fun. They're at the house using burner phones. And then Northwest Crime Fest, Desiree Young, huge bombshell, talks about the new evidence that's on the burner phones that law enforcement got because Dede took them to these phones. I'm just trying to find. Where's it at? I will find it.
I know you had plenty.
Oh, I know. I have so much. Okay, here it is. So listen closely. We'll play it a few times so that everybody hears it. The most important part that you want to listen to is towards the end of this, is when you're going to hear them really talk about the evidence that was found on the phone. Because she's going over all of the evidence that they have.
Evidence in the truck, the bed of the truck, physical DNA evidence. We have things missing from the house that she used.
So there's physical evidence in the truck, DNA evidence. They have evidence of the things that Terri used from the house, which I've actually talked about a search that Desiree did when they found these things from the house.
We have the injury to her leg.
There was an injury to Terri's leg. There was a gash, is the way that it was described by a person at a gym later on the day after Kyron disappeared. Somebody saw her at the gym and told law enforcement about seeing a gash on her leg. So when I hear gash, I see blood, huge like gash, not a scrape, not a
broken skin for sure.
bruise. Terri has tried to say that she dropped a weight on her leg. I've dropped weights. I don't know. You'd get more of a bruise by dropping her weight. You're not going to get a gash. But anyway, that's what she's talking about there.
From that day, we know that we have photos on those cell phones.
We have photos on those cell phones. Talking about these burner phones. Here we go.
We have the picture of it.
We have a picture of it. The it part, we have no clue what it is. We're all like, what is it? But now continue listening. We have a picture of it.
We don't know where that picture was taken.
We don't know where that picture was taken.
That's the picture, kind of.
Yes.
After the school.
Yes.
And in the background, that is Rebecca Morse, the author that wrote the book Boy Missing, asking Desiree Young a picture of Kyron after the school, and Desiree answers yes. So let me just rewind right through here.
We don't know where that picture was taken.
The picture, kind of.
Yes.
After the school.
Yes. Don't know where that picture was taken.
The picture, kind of.
Yes.
After the school.
Yes.
So a picture of Kyron after the school. Is Kyron in that picture alive? Is he dead? We don't know.
Yeah, that's just, it's crazy. And I totally could see how, I don't know. Like she said, it's obvious that her story is completely fabricated then. If there's a picture of Kyron, even if he's alive after the school, to me, it's like, if we're sitting on a grand jury, we're going to be like, arrest this woman. What is it going to take? But like I said, they don't have an actual deceased body or a crime scene or a location to look or anything. So it's just hard to think about.
She says we have a picture of it.
Yeah,
what is
it? What is it?
We know now we have been able to put these puzzle pieces together, and that's what we're going to go over. How all of this goes together, how we know because of actions that have been made within the recent last couple of years, things that Desiree isn't doing anymore, things that law enforcement have started to do. There are things going on in the background that just goes, oh wow, something big was found. So we started asking ourselves, when was this picture found? When was this picture found on the phone? Because she's talking about them getting this evidence or getting these burner phones actually quite early. Here's a clip from Bruce McCain talking about the evidence search, and this was in August of 2010.
A former captain with the Multnomah County Sheriff's Office. Bruce, good morning to you.
Good morning, Chris.
Let me ask you this. 2 new searches this weekend. So what is behind these searches? What are they looking for?
Well, again, we should not confuse these weekend searches with the ones that were happening 9 weeks ago. The initial search, of course, was a massive search and rescue looking for a presumably lost and alive 7-year-old boy. This is a different type of search. This is going to be a forensic search for physical evidence of criminal activity. One of the clues, of course, is going to be the spacing of the searchers themselves, what they're looking for, and what we just heard in that last report is that it does look like the grand jury process is starting to squeeze some critical information out of people that may have been reluctant to tell investigators.
Grand jury is starting to squeeze information out of people. Just keep that in mind as we continue talking.
Without the power of a subpoena.
Is that the reason why this friend Dede Spicer was able to come forward now with these tips at this time in the grand jury process?
Well, as we talked about before, Chris, on this very program, Dede Spicer was not reportedly very cooperative with the investigators. But when you put somebody under oath in a grand jury and a penalty of perjury, and perhaps even with the threat of additional prosecution for their own criminal conduct, that tends to squeeze information out. So it looks like Dede's opening up. And again, these investigators, this is not a search and rescue. This is a forensic search for criminal evidence, more than likely something very specific that Dede told them about. And it could even very well be one of these untraceable cell phones that they're trying to find.
If it is a cell phone that they are in fact looking for, how could that help tie Terri to this case?
Well, Chris, one of the biggest problems we've talked about before is just trying to make a connection between Terri Horman's involvement and this idea that Kyron's being stashed by an unknown third party. If they can find these phones and use the great forensics that they have now to try to find out who Terri Horman was talking to immediately after June 4th or thereabouts, that might give them a tip as to where Kyron actually may be today.
So this is in August.
Right.
And so after Dede goes and stays with Terri at the end of June, they want to know who is Dede Spicer. Obviously, they're going to start looking into her. So they're searching on July 15th, Dede's condo. It was searched and police took her computer and her phone. On July 22nd, detectives took K9 and went and scoured the property of Dede's aunt's house. She lives in Helvetia. It's like 5 miles away from the school. And then they also went and searched in August Germantown Road and Old Germantown Road over where Dede worked and put Dede's face on a flyer in August.
So you're telling me they searched Dede's family's house before they even put her on a flyer?
Yes.
Wow. And you guys,
I found all my search information earlier, and I'm like, I've got to get my searches out and read through them. So yeah, they are searching her condo on July 15th, on July 22nd, her aunt's, on the 7th and the 8th of August. They are searching around Old Germantown Road, where she worked, with her face on a flyer that's being passed out with a questionnaire. And then after they search there, they go over and start searching off of a field off of Cornelius Pass Road and 1 mile south of that's one mile south of the school. And then they also start searching the fields along Cornell Road. And that's the search that Bruce McCain just talked about. They're looking for those cell phones.
It's just crazy. There's so much I want to say about this point. I don't want to take up all of this segment's time, but man, my brain is just reeling on all of it because I have mentioned in our lives in the past, I would advise anybody to go read a search warrant, go read an application or an affidavit from a law enforcement officer asking the court to approve a search warrant, because it's not, they can't just do it willy-nilly. And if they're doing it before they even identify Dede publicly, they had dirt on her already based on what they found in Terri's old communications. Like, you know, they were lovers, and they probably had proof of that on their communications with each other.
Well, I also found out that they got Terri's regular cell phone, not the burner phone, but regular cell phone, 2 weeks after Kyron disappeared. So
the police did?
Yes. So they had her cell phone 2 weeks afterwards, and Desiree Young said that they were able to pull some information off of those burner phones with just a few weeks after Kyron disappeared. Now,
yeah,
were those the burner phones that they found that were purchased at the end of the month?
I know, right?
Because they're looking for the ones that they used on June 4th and August.
Why would they care? And why would they throw the ones away? The ones that they had in June? Like, that is just super suspicious in of itself, right?
The only ones you're going to throw away are the ones that you used on June 4th, the day that Kyron came up missing. That's what they're looking for when...
Yeah, wow. Right? And you better believe the police still have those phones in their possession. If they found those phones in 2010, they still have them today. And Bruce McCain just said the great technology of 2010. Can you imagine what the great technology of 2017, 2019, 2024 is like? It's so much better than what it was in 2010. So all they have to do is plug that in or somehow get into the data, and they have obviously been able to extract things that they weren't able to previously, in our opinions.
Right. So, I mean, if they're searching in August, then 2 months after Kyron came up missing for these burner phones, and they found them, Desiree says, and then information starts getting taken off of them. So now we're going to talk about what we found out with immunity in Oregon.
Mm-hmm.
If Dede was forced to testify before a grand jury, she automatically gets immunity. And we got this. Kaylee, would you mind reading this for me, love?
Yeah.
So I don't start coughing.
Yes. Yes.
Put this up here. So this is just Kyron's parents testify before the grand jury.
The parents of missing 7-year-old Kyron Horman testified before a grand jury Monday afternoon, according to a source at the Multnomah County Courthouse. Meanwhile, the property of the aunt of Dede Spicer has been searched, according to sources. Kyron's mother, Desiree Young, and his stepfather, Tony Young, left the Multnomah County Courthouse out of a side door following their testimony and were escorted by the sheriff's deputies. They said nothing and left in an unmarked car. Kyron's father, Kyron Horman, left separately after more than 3 hours of speaking with jurors. He also had no comment. Dede Spicer, a close friend of Kyron's stepmother, Terri Horman, was asked to testify before the grand jury last week, but never actually spoke to jurors. Sources have said Terri and Dede have not been able to account for an hour and a half to 2 hours on the morning of June 4th, the day Kyron disappeared. Side note, just interjecting, later they updated that to be what, 4 hours?
4 hours for Dede and up to almost 3 hours for Terri.
Yes, so these were earlier reports. Continuing. According to sources, 2 detectives and a canine search dog scoured the property of Dede Spicer's aunt along Northwest Bishop Road in oh gosh, I know I'm going to say this wrong because I don't remember the right way. Helveda.
Yeah.
Within the last 2 weeks. Neighbors said Dede no longer lives there and hasn't visited in a while, but they said detectives still wanted to know what they saw, if anything, on June 4th. Neither Terri Horman nor Dede Spicer have been charged with any crimes or named a suspect in the case, but the family has said they believe Terri was involved in Kyron's disappearance and that Dede knows something. Last Friday, Desiree made a plea for anyone who knows Terri or Dede to come forward. They need to come forward even if they have nothing, even if they have something small. They need to come forward because it could be the smallest piece that helps solve it, she said. If they know them or have talked to them ever, they need to come forward and just share what they know. K2 News has been told that Spicer is now talking to detectives, but it is unknown if she will be called back to testify before jurors. If she is forced to talk, she would be granted immunity under Oregon law.
And that's where we found that if she was forced to talk to the grand jury, she would automatically give immunity, which we've talked over and over and over again. How did she get this accidental immunity? When was it given to her? So was it given to her in early 2010? Was it given to her in 2013? Because Dede talks about getting immunity in 2013. She also says she passed a polygraph, but Desiree Young says she has never taken a polygraph and that Dede's lying. So we're not quite sure when she got immunity, but we are wondering whether or not she got immunity because she was forced to speak to the grand jury. And there is a little bit more here.
Okay. The grand jury in this case could hear testimony for weeks or months, and it could also hand off the case to a new grand jury. Experts say testimony usually wraps up within a couple of weeks, and the process of getting answers and a possible indictment in the case is moving forward. It's clear that the district attorney, who is the legal advisor to the grand jury, is now confident enough to start this process. Hopefully that will lead to an indictment, said Bruce McCain, an attorney and former Multnomah County Sheriff's captain. Kyron's parents are probably going to be the first in a long list of civilian witnesses who will be joining the investigators and boxes of evidence in the process, he said. The district's attorney's office wouldn't confirm how long the grand jury has been seated or how long it expects jurors to hear testimony, but sources at the courthouse Kane and Desiree are the beginning of a long list of witnesses who will be called to testify. Several people have confirmed to K2 News that they too have been called and added to the list of witnesses. McCain said if Terri Horman is the prime suspect in the case, she won't be called to testify. And guess what? She's never been to the grand jury.
Nope.
So Terri will not be called to the grand jury if she is in fact the prime suspect, because if you have your prime suspect testify to the grand jury, then you just granted them immunity in the process if you compel them to testify, he said. Grand jury proceedings in Oregon are secret, and the district attorney won't comment on them.
I couldn't believe that I found this, because not only did it talk about if Dede was forced to talk in front of the grand jury, she wouldn't get immunity, but it also talked about something that you brought up a long time ago, mentioning that Terri has never went before the grand jury, and why. And this is why, because if she testifies, it gives her automatic immunity. And I think I may have cut you off earlier because Bigfoot Barbecue was just saying something, because you were
I was reading
talking
that
about
too.
Yeah, you were talking about the two of them having like a relationship together or
Yeah,
whatever.
I was just saying that I think that the fact that they had two, not one, but two search warrants approved for Dede Spicer's family's house. Her aunt, and then her own condo. They had to have had something that proves this like close connection and a reason, like, an actual reason they can list why they believe searching at Dede's house may uncover evidence in this crime, because otherwise they would be denied. So
Right.
that to me it lends that credibility to the fact that, yeah, they were lovers. And very early on, Kane and Desiree sat for interviews, and they described that Terri used her sexuality to manipulate people. She used this charm, this charisma, and her sexuality to try to get people to do things for her, including the murder for hire, the first one. And that is confirmed on court record too, on a sworn affidavit, that she was also having an affair with the landscaper, and she was doing so to try to manipulate him into doing this for her, and he didn't fall
Right.
for it.
And it wasn't just those two warrants either, because also on July 22nd, police searched the homes of 3 of Terry's friends. So they got search warrants for 3 of Terry's friends, Dede's condo, and Dede's aunt. And the 3 friends and the aunt's house were those were all searched, all 4 places on the 22nd of July.
When Desiree was saying in that article, by the way, that she was just hoping that anybody who knew Terri or Dede to come forward, no matter what, it's because they believed Terri was giving different people little bits of information. And they believed that if they talked to enough people, they would be able to piece the puzzle together and see the bigger picture and find out. They mentioned that in interviews, that they believe that's what Terri was doing. So that plea
Desiree,
was,
go ahead, sorry.
no, yeah, you're probably just following along right there with me. The plea was just to see what other breadcrumbs was Terri leaving out there that could give the detectives places to look to try to find more clues. And man, they were lifting up the stone and finding more, just
Right. And the other thing that Desiree said during the Northwest Crime Fest, which I didn't take a clip of because it was just briefly, she said that the reason why Dede wasn't given a polygraph was because Dede was feeding Terri a bunch of information. And they knew if they gave her a polygraph that she was just going to feed Terri the information about the questions that she was asked on the polygraph test.
yeah, exactly.
So, and that was another thing that was said before by Desiree, was that, Dede was not just with the polygraph stuff, but Dede was feeding information to Terri. Dede didn't even want to do a setup to set Terri up. She refused to do it. And it's because she was just giving all kinds of information to Terri every time she was talked to by law enforcement. She was just turning around and talking about it, with Terri, which is not what they wanted to do because, obviously Terry's doing dumb things and Dede knew about it, but here she is, talking about it. Let me see what else I got here as far as clips. So this immunity thing, there's been talk like, did she get immunity because she took them to the burner phones? We don't know. Did she get immunity because she was forced to talk to the grand jury in 2010? We don't know. Was she forced to talk to the grand jury in 2013? We don't know. We know she went before the grand jury in 2013. We know that she also was supposed to do a deposition for the civil lawsuit that Desiree Young did on Terri Horman, but Dede refused to answer. She pled the fifth to 141 questions. All of them is simple, even as, do you know who Kyron Horman is? Or do you know who Terri Horman is? All of which would implicate her in some way, shape, or form into something, which is why she pled the fifth. But all of these pieces about her immunity now starting to come together just because of the information that are coming out on these phones. Because she knew what was on those phones when she told law enforcement, okay, I'll take you to the phones. So is that how she got it? Don't know.
When she did that deposition and she pled the fifth, after that obviously that was not the outcome that Desiree and her attorney were hoping for. So they went back to the court and they asked the court to compel Dede to not be allowed to plead the fifth. And and I'm going to be honest with you guys. I don't know. I don't have time to get into it right now. I don't have the brain power to get into it right now. But I think something hinky happened around this discussion or something, or maybe about the immunity or the deal or like a plan with Dede, because as soon as Desiree's attorney went back to the judge and asked the judge to compel Dede to answer questions and not be allowed to plead the fifth, that's when the civil case, they put a seal on it. There's a seal on it. You can't go and get all the files to the civil case. And I think it's because there is discussion about the deal. Because in one of the last legal filings you can get to the civil case, it happened in December 2012. It says that a witness, quote unquote, a witness to the Kyron Horman case is involved. And who else would that be? You know, they're already trying to compel Dede Spicer to talk, and that's kind of what they're pushing this for. And now they're pushing to now let's pump the brakes, and that's because we have this unnamed witness that we're working with in the Kyron Horman case. I am speculating 100%. I think that was Dede, and that was the start of when, like, hey, let's work together here, and the start of this, like, immunity maybe got put on the table. That's just me speculating, but there's a reason that civil suit is completely sealed to this day, and it all happened, like, literally that mention of the witness, the quote unquote unnamed witness. That was like one of the very last legal filings you can get in the case.
Right. I totally agree with you. And like I said earlier, now we're starting to ask ourselves, okay, because when I first heard this information about the picture on the phone that they have at Kyron, and they're saying pictures, so, you know, what are the other pictures? Well, she mentions we don't know where this location is. Well, we know as technology and whatever that they're able to use, they can use all different kinds of technology to pull information off. They can use the metadata to particularly, like, pull the certain location up from the phone, like where the picture was taken at the time it was taken. And then you have Desiree Young talking in 2019. So we're going to be jumping way, way forward here, because there's computer evidence we're going to talk about that they ended up finding in 2017. But right now we're going to stick with the cell phone information. In 2019, Desiree Young starts talking about how they narrowed down the search to 100 acres for Kyron. And we know that they did searches in 2018 and in 2019. Let me see. I have... I want to throw this up. It talks about searches that were done in 2017, which we will go back and talk about later, but we want to talk about the 2019 100-acre searches. This here is just talking about the 2017 searches. Let's see.
Very active. There have been recent searches. Kyron's mom said it is still, quote, very active. There have been recent searches at new undisclosed locations, and search crews have narrowed the search area to about 100 acres. She said police have new evidence thanks to advancements in computer and cell phone technology.
So advancements in technology on cell phones in 2019. So somewhere between 2019 and the summer of 2022, when Desiree Young and Stacy Green from another Kyron Horman page on Facebook starts talking about there being new evidence that proves that Dede Spicer killed Kyron for Terri. And now they're talking online on Facebook about how happy they are that they're finally able to put this information out there and tell them what the new evidence is. We've seen in comments stating, now we're glad we can talk about what that new evidence is. And so Stacy started posting on her page in the summer of 2022. So sometime between 2019 and 2022 is when this information started that got pulled off of these phones. And we're leaning more towards 2022. Stacy Green actually told me in a message that she thought it was around the time that she started posting about it on her page on Facebook. She said, but she wasn't, she didn't know the exact time. Well, let's talk about 2022. You have Desiree Young going and holding a rally outside the district attorney's office, and she's asking for a new task force by Multnomah County Sheriff's Office. So what would be a new task force? Just like where they get a bunch of detectives together, a new kind of task force to...
Yeah. A new, are you, sorry. I just got a text from my friend. I forgot I was going to take her to the airport tomorrow. I'm glad she reminded me. I have to wake up early for that. But anyway, a new task force in my head, I'm envisioning Multnomah County, like already Multnomah County, when there is a violent crime, they do the, what's it called? The major crimes teams, it's not just Multnomah County. It's Oregon State Police, Multnomah County, and I'm pretty sure Portland Police. They all partner together. And so they have the major crimes team, and they probably I'm guessing they'll just take maybe like a little multi agency approach. Bring in an FBI member again, bring in Multnomah County member again, bring in a dedicated team that is going to be dedicated to reviewing this evidence, looking it over, and I think being able to put it together and probably get it ready to go back to the district attorney and ask them,
right,
can we seek charges?
Well, and that's what it is too. I mean, so like in 2022, when it starts getting posted about on Facebook, we're all like, what the hell? What happened? Like, where'd they find out this new information? Everybody wanted to know where it came from and everything else. Then, like, this article is from February 16th of 2022. The mother of a missing Portland boy is holding a rally this weekend to try to get the attention of the Multnomah County District Attorney. She wants the DA to take another look at the unsolved Kyron Horman case and convey a new task force. Horman disappeared from Skyline School, Portland, Oregon, June 4th, 2010. The second grader has never been found. Did I put anything else after this? Let me see. Oh yeah, this is her just talking about wanting to rally up against, and I actually have a clip about, let me see. This is the rally that she did in front of the DA's office in 2022, right after this information comes out on Facebook. This is why we think the information the technology took the information from those burner phones in 2022, in my opinion, but it could be between 2019 and 2022.
Outside the Multnomah County Courthouse today to keep the boy's memory alive. Kyron was only 8 years old when he went missing without a trace back in 2010.
He was 7. He got it wrong. Sorry.
He was last seen when his mother dropped him off at Skyline School. Rally organizers waved signs outside the courthouse, hoping to remind the district attorney's office to keep searching for him.
I'm hoping that just by all the pressure and me being out here and getting all the support by the community that elected him, I'm hoping that he'll hear that and he'll act.
Well, the search for Kyron sparked one of the largest investigations in Oregon history. His disappearance remains unsolved to this day.
Yeah, so there she is rallying as soon as this information that she finds out. She's also wanting, a new task force. And then at the Northwest Crime Fest, she talks about the DA, the FBI, and evidence. And when she talks, this is information that Kaylee hasn't heard. She did not hear this yet. And I'm super excited for her to hear this because Desiree drops a bombshell when she talks about the new things that the FBI is currently doing for Kyron Horman's case. And before we start this clip, let me also tell you, this immunity deal that Dede has, Desiree is trying to get it taken away. The way that it's been described is this immunity was given to her in the state of Oregon, but the U.S. government court system may be able to take away what they're calling this accidental immunity. So if Dede has any information that she wants to share, she better hop her ass on the train to help Kyron find, tell where he is, start talking here real soon, because she could possibly lose her immunity. And we honestly believe that this next year is going to be the beginning of Kyron's justice. When the new DA takes over, which Desiree will actually talk about in this next clip that I'm going to play, because right now the current district attorney is not doing a damn thing. He's never prosecuted for any kind of rape, SA, or violent criminal murders or anything. He has not prosecuted anything. The new DA takes over in January of 2025, and Desiree's hopes, because he's promised to work with Desiree in Kyron's case. And Nathan Vasquez, the new DA, also happens to be friends with Detective Tabor, which is the new detective on Kyron's case. And the new sheriff that became sheriff in 2013, what's her name again, Kalia?
Morris O'Donnelly.
Yes, Morris O'Donnelly. She took over in 2013. Now, she was married to the original detective in Kyron's case in 2010. It's almost like God is putting all of these people together to all work with one another. So let me play this clip talking about the FBI from the Northwest Crime Fest.
Yes, technology is always advancing. It helps us do our jobs better. And in our case, yes. So we've had advances in cell phone technology and some things from Google and some of that stuff that has helped us. It helps us get a step further, right? So we're always like, okay, there's another piece and another piece. And well, we already know this, but this confirms that other piece, right? And we still cannot get to the point where we can convince anybody with Multnomah County to do anything. Right now, we're waiting on Mike Schmidt. He won't do anything. So I'm waiting for him to leave. And hopefully, the new DA is going to do something. We've had new participation from the FBI, and they're showing new interest in our case. They are helping us do another case review, which is awesome. It's huge. They are compiling it, digitizing it, getting it ready for court. And we have them thinking outside the box, right? So participating in ways that we haven't seen before. And I think that that's critical because you have to pivot sometimes. And with the case stuff, we have a lot of circumstantial evidence, but we also have some physical evidence, but we don't have Kyron. And you have this resistance in law enforcement to prosecute a missing child case for whatever reason when you don't have the child. And I keep falling back on this one thing, right? Kyron relied on one person that day. One person. That was the one person who's responsible for his disappearance. That's it. That's where we're back to. He was in the classroom, he got his picture taken, and he walked out the school, witnessed by everybody. He walked out with Terri Horman. He didn't come back. That's where it lies. It's that simple. So I'm hoping that the new DA is gonna hear that and wanna do something about it.
Wow, yeah, that is awesome to hear that they're digitizing the case to be ready for court. That is
Right?
amazing. Like
A
little,
case review.
yes, that is incredible because that's what
Working on, yeah,
that's what they need. That's exactly what Kyron needs because they don't have him. They don't have a crime scene. They don't have a weapon. They don't have the slam dunk. They don't have an ace up their sleeve. And Multnomah County, like I said, they like to play with a heavy deck. They like to be so sure that somebody committed a crime that they have enough evidence to get you to plead guilty so you don't get an appeal. And they know Terri is not going to admit to this. She's going to go down kicking and screaming and being dragged by her fingernails. So
absolutely.
I do believe that like we've been saying, like it just is this gut feeling that everything is finally coming together the way that needs to happen. And justice takes time, so takes a long time sometimes. But yeah, Nathan Vasquez, I do have high hopes that he's going to be the one. And can you imagine being the prosecutor that brought charges to Terri Horman and like solved Kyron Horman's case? Like
Right?
that is huge. Kyron
And he's
Horman
a
is,
younger go-getter. He's like
yeah,
not an older whatever. Like he's a younger go-getter, and I really think it's so important. I mean, you had Stacey Green and Desiree showing up for his Nathan Vasquez to help get people to vote for him, to get voted into office. Like they were really not petitioning people, but just really trying to get people to come on board and vote for him over in Oregon. And now here he is. He's promised Desiree to work on Kyron's case. They're really excited. If he doesn't do what he said that he would do, they're going to be on his ass. But I think with the FBI involved, with them doing their case review, with them doing the digitalizing stuff that they're doing, they're helping put the case back together. Because Detective Tabers even told me, they went from huge, great big 4-inch binders to putting it into a computer. And when they put it all into the computer, everything got dumped into the computer without things being filed. So when Detective Tabor took over, here he is trying to put all the pieces to like over 60 4-inch binders in this case, if not more information, trying to put it all together, piece it all together, and get it to where he could even go over the case and everything else. And now you have the FBI working with him, working with Multnomah County, helping get this case put together. And it's all because they know something's going to go down. And it's because this new evidence was found on these burner phones, just like they're saying, that proves that Dede Spicer killed Kyron for Terri. And I hate saying it that way because there's always that little bit of hope that you want to have that Kyron's still out there. But we're talking 14 years later. We're talking about searches being done in the woods, in the water. Desiree herself has said, I believe I know what she did to him during one of her search interviews. And so there's this, you know, you don't want it to be, but it's very possible that, yes, this is exactly what happened. And so if this information came out in 2022 and this new technology helped pull this out, then you have her rallying. I don't know how to quite say that. And then you have the new task force. And then you have the new FBI coming on board. You have the new sheriff in town who Desiree goes in and talks to. And I think I even have a clip about that too. So she goes in to sit, and this is in March of 2023. Desiree goes and talks to the new sheriff, O'Donnell. How do you say her name?
Morris O'Donnell.
Thank you.
Sheriff Morris O'Donnell.
So in March of 2023, and we'll see. So mom meets with the new Multnomah County Sheriff. Desiree Young called for a meeting in hopes the new sheriff will dedicate time and resources to help find her son, still missing after 13 years. The mother of missing Portland boy met with the new Multnomah County Sheriff, Nicole Morrisley O'Donnell, on Friday afternoon. Desiree Young called for the meeting in hopes the new sheriff will advocate. What is that? Allocate? I don't know. I can't read because it's. Anyway, time and resources to help find her son. Kyron disappeared June 4th from Skyline Elementary School, 2010 in Northwest Portland. And then Young said Sheriff Morris O'Donnell seemed committed to the missing boys case. In recent weeks, the Multnomah County Sheriff's Office, and here's where things start really getting good. Multnomah County Sheriff's Office conducted a search in North and Northwest Portland, Young explained. Additionally, Young said investigators are following up on new tips and looking into new technologies to assist in the search effort. So 2022, we believe this new evidence is found on the burner phones. New sheriff comes into town. They're already doing new searches.
Yeah, and Desiree has paused her searches. She's allowed that because of this shift, right? She's kind of stepped back, and she's now the Multnomah County Sheriff Office is the one that's been doing searches. And although you don't see them broadcasted, the Multnomah County Sheriff's Office never announces that really when they do them. It's kind of just something that kind of gets slipped by, or like somebody sees it and then reports it to media or something like that. And they've just kind of been flying under the radar, but they're searching.
Right. And it's not, Desiree said she stopped her searches 2 years ago. So that would, and she just said that this summer. So that would be 2022. And now you have Multnomah County Sheriff's Office doing the searches when the majority of the searches were being done by Desiree. So that's a huge thing. Huge.
Today marks 14 years since Kyron Horman went missing. The second grader was last seen at Skyline School in Northwest Portland. He's never been found. Investigative reporter Kyle Aboshi has been covering this story since day one. He's in the newsroom. And Kyle, after all these years, there is still an active investigation.
Tim, the missing boy's mother confirms there have been searches in just the past few months, and police are using new software and technology. The sheriff's office even created a new website with information about the case and where people can submit tips. But after 14 years, still no sign of Kyron Horman.
So there's Kyle Aboshi, 14 years later. This was just this last summer. They're talking about recent searches that were done. They're talking about this new technology, information being used to, which we already always knew. We always knew that if anything they found on Dede's computer and phone, Terri's phone, anything that had to do with any electronics, we already knew technology. It's going to,
Catch up
something
with
eventually
you.
will pop up. Yeah, exactly. It's going to catch up with you. You cannot run from technology. It gets better by the minute, by the hour, day to day. It's constantly growing and getting better. So, Kelly Dime here says that they did the same thing in Christian Smart's case with the new leaders, fresh eyes, and new technology. It really helped to turn that case around. It did. I remember that. And we really do feel like this next year will be the beginning to Kyron's justice. It's just
Right.
a matter of time.
It too much is bubbling to the surface. Too many things, like we talked about earlier. Too many things that we've been trying to dig into and been finding weird things. Like, I don't want to give it away because we're not ready to talk about it because we want to get our facts 100% right. But
Right.
there are things that we're trying to find out and we're running into issues, and the only thing that we can think of that's causing the issues is something is happening in Kyron's case. And you'll understand what I mean when we are able to talk more about it at another live down the road. But it's been definitely super weird. And I'm sure many of you have heard this phrase. I can't remember who said it to me recently. It may have been Heidi, maybe. Maybe it was you, Samantha. But it's only the perfect crime until it's not. It's only
That's
the
what I told
perfect.
you. Yes.
Yes.
I just told you that the other day because I'm
Yes.
sitting here watching the show and somebody was talking about the perfect crime. And then this other investigator, she was like, well, let me give you a quote by another writer who says it's only the perfect crime, or it's a perfect crime until it's not.
Yeah.
Well,
With
Terri, I got news
technology.
for you.
Yeah. Guess
It's
what?
only
You
the
never.
perfect crime till it's not.
I just know I don't want to get too much into it, but unless you take the time to like research these things, like the technology advancements that is happening in law enforcement and the investigation fields, it's shocking what is out there. Like literally, like it's just shocking to me. Like our digital footprints and our technology is just as damning as physical evidence nowadays.
Yeah.
Like, it's crazy what they can prove from our digital footprints and things that we don't even think about, that we are not even aware of, that they can prove on your phones. It's so crazy.
Yeah, I mean, they find these pictures on these burner phones. New technology is able to pull them up. Like I was saying earlier, pictures have metadata on them that gives you the location and of where that photo was taken, and it also gives you the time that the picture was taken. And with that, like Kyle Aboshi has talked about before, which is the reporter, this GSI technology that they use and what it's used for is something that they're using GIS, sorry, not GSI, GIS technology. And that is, let me get this up here. Geographic Information System. Technology is a computer-based tool for capturing, storing, checking, integrating, manipulating, analyzing, and displaying data related to positions on the Earth's surface. GIS combines graphic data with descriptive information to provide a comprehensive understanding of locations and patterns. And this is what they're using in Kyron's case. So what else does that mean? They can get GIS off of your hardware, which are like computers, servers, mobile devices, software, specialized programs and data creations, editing, analysis and visualization, maps, like your what's it? They always say this word, and Desiree talks about it.
Spatial.
Yes, the
Spatial.
spatial data. And let's see. There was something else in here.
Well, Desiree, she mentioned Google, and that's just one thing.
Right.
I mean, yeah, they definitely are able to go back and review what was done in 2010 and apply 2024 technology to it and restore things that they might not have, and analyze things and get deeper data, you know.
Yeah, when I was going over this, they mentioned Google, they mentioned Maps, they mentioned GPS on your phone, they mentioned Google Earth was one of them. The relationships between data and the geographic locations. So like GIS is definitely something amazing that they're using, and I believe that's what they used and are still using to find the location of exactly where that picture was taken. And when Desiree says, you know, we have a picture of it, but we don't know where that location is, well, they're looking for it. And because it's been narrowed down to 100 acres, I believe they'll find it. I hope and pray that they find it.
Me
I really
too.
do.
Me too.
So besides the cell phone information, we have more evidence that we've also been able to put together, which is this 2017 in 2017, Terri Horman, well, let's see, 2015, 16, 17 were just not good years for Terri Horman, okay? She stole a gun. She didn't go to court for it. She got a warrant for her arrest. She got pulled over in a car that was stolen, that she stole, even though she says she borrowed. And when she got pulled over, she had the stolen gun with her, and she got arrested for the warrant. She also had threatened a man, her ex-boyfriend. His name is Joseph Cristal, and he is somebody that we are hoping we're going to be able to speak with soon. We've actually talked about him many times. We had one of his friends, Lori Oliver, who also is an advocate for Kyron Horman. She's been on a couple of our shows. We're going to talk about her for a little bit, but yeah, Callie says sounds like geofencing, which is amazing. Exactly. I kept trying to figure out the name of that, but I couldn't. And I get all excited and then I can't think. But Joseph Cristal was the one boyfriend that ended up getting a restraining order against Terri because she threatened him with a knife in the kitchen and said that if you speak about Kyron, I'm going to hurt you and your family. And so the thing about Joseph Cristal is Terri and him split up, and he ends up getting a restraining order on Terri because of the knife incident. And that's when he goes to court to get a restraining order. And the restraining order, when he goes to court for that, is when Lori Oliver meets him. She finds out that he's going to court to get the restraining order. She goes to court to meet up with him. And then she talks to him and finds out that he's got all kinds of information. Let me see if I can pull her stuff up. And this is what she says about this computer that Joseph had at his house that was Terri Horman's. It was left there at his house.
And I don't know if you guys remember a reporter following Terri down the street when she was walking her dog with her mom.
She just said Tom Jensen. So he's a news reporter that actually followed Terri around here. Very well known in the beginning when Kyron first came up missing. And she befriended him and became his friend.
Yeah.
I know what you're talking about.
So I talked Joseph into being willing to meet with Tom and myself. He didn't want to meet with Tom one-on-one. He wanted me there. And that was fine. And that's when the three of us went through that computer.
And you said that this computer was Terry's computer that she left behind?
She did. And I still haven't figured out why she did this, because she apparently was going to leave Joseph because he was catching on to things and she had threatened him with the knife and stuff. He was really trying to catch on in the lies that Terri had spun for him. Like initially, he did not know anything about the Kyron Horman case. And when she first started telling him about it, after she got kicked out of the other guy's house, she started living with Joseph. She started with telling him, oh, there's a missing child case up there in Oregon that everybody's obsessed with. And she mentioned it very casually and stuff like that. And then it kept coming
up. Never
up.
Mentioning that was her stepson?
Not initially.
Oh, wow.
But she was lining up to go on the Dr. Phil show. So she knew she was going to have to get it out to him soon.
So yeah, Terri had to tell Joseph about Kyron because she was going to New York with Joseph to go to the Dr. Phil show, and he was going to hear it all. So when they get together and everything else, she doesn't even tell him about Kyron. The fact that she just made it sound like she was just a friend or that just knew this boy turns into, I was the stepmother of him. And then it turned into, and you know, they're accusing me of doing something with him. So he finds out all of this before she's going to go on to the Dr. Phil show. And
their relationship deteriorated after that, because that happened in August of 2016 that they went to New York for the Dr. Phil show. And by November of 2016, that's when it had gotten so bad that she allegedly pulled a knife on him over speaking to law enforcement. It was the specific thing Joseph Cristal told Kyle Aboshi was, she threatened me with a knife, saying that if I went to law enforcement to talk to them about Kyron, because he was feeling concerned, I'm sure, she was going to unalive him and his family. And that restraining order was granted. And
he's been in hiding ever since.
Literally in hiding, Lori, they developed a friendship through this, this experience, and Lori was able to look through the computer that Terri left behind. And
actually tells us she spent hours and hours and hours looking through this computer. Even before Tom Jensen came, her and Joseph spent hours and hours and hours looking through the computer.
Lori has shared with us some of the things that were on that computer, and at the time, it's not like she was taking screenshots or anything. She was just going through it for her own information and knowledge. And so she's going by memory, and she's telling us things that are on there that are definitely very like, what the heck? And Kyron related stuff, right? Things that are Terri and Kyron related, not necessarily evidence, but things that make you scratch your head. Why is Terri writing this or having this saved to her computer? And just like Samantha said, we hope to have the opportunity to speak with Joseph, and hopefully there may be a chance that Lori gets a second chance to look through the computer again.
Yeah, and I mean, and then Joseph goes off on this. Well, who's Kyron Horman? What's the story behind all of this? So after Dr. Phil and everything else, he comes back. Lori says, you know, he's kind of looking into the case now. He's looking into Kyron. He's looking into Terri. And she ends up convincing him that law enforcement is just out to get her, that they're just crooked police officers and everything else. So not only is he terrified from Terri Horman, now he's also terrified for law enforcement. But here's
he doesn't know who to trust.
Yeah, and the kicker is this computer gets taken by law enforcement because Tom, the reporter, decides to tell them, like, okay, we need to take what's on this computer and we need to turn it into police. So they turn in the information to police. And guess what? Police ends up heading all the way down to California to pick it up. I want to play this clip by Calaboshi, who actually talks about this computer and everything in 2017, because he does explain it best. Let's see. Here it is.
Of Kyron Horman. KGW investigative reporter Kylie Boshi has spent weeks digging into this case. Kyle?
New documents and new details suggest this is still a very active investigation. We've learned there have been recent searches. Prosecutors have a grand jury impaneled to hear evidence. And we've also learned that police are now looking at new computer evidence to try and find.
This is a puzzle piece that got put together. 2017, new computer evidence. This is the computer, you guys. It is the computer that Joseph Cristal had in his possession that got turned over to law enforcement. And they are going, the grand jury is hearing testimony about things that were on this computer. And let's not forget, in 2017, after the computer evidence comes out, the grand jury asked Multnomah County Sheriff's Office and search teams to go search Sauvie Island in 2017, all because of stuff on this computer.
And that's something that was shared with us by the foreperson of that grand jury. And they obviously didn't share too many details, but based on the context of the conversation we were having, they said that to us, that in 2017, they sent them back to the Sauvie Island. And it's just like, well, oh my goodness, we can read between the lines here. You know, we can see, we don't know everything, but we also can, like I said earlier, we can see that 2 + 2 = 4. And that computer evidence, I can only imagine what they got. What they did was they took it from Joseph, they copied it, they have a copy of it in their thing. So just like with the cell phones, they can go and apply today's technology to that computer copy. I know this is how it works. So yeah.
And that's because I'm so lucky to have you working at the courthouse. I love it. But let me rewind this just a little bit, and then I'll play the full clip and we'll talk. I'm getting excited because we're putting things together.
We've learned there have been recent searches. Prosecutors have a grand jury impaneled to hear evidence. And we've also learned that police are now looking at new computer evidence to try and find Kyron Horman.
Additionally, the newly released documents confirm
a grand jury remains impaneled to take evidence in the matter. Yet law professor Tung Yin cautions,
not all cases brought before the grand jury results in indictments.
And the reason for that statement, not all grand jurors are made to bring an indictment. We have believed, especially since Kaylee came on as my partner and has explained it to me, and looking back, that Kyron Horman's grand jury from the very beginning looks like it has been being used as a tool. Can you explain more about what a grand jury tool is used for, Kaylee?
Yeah, it's super secretive, right? And also they have the ability to compel and subpoena people to come testify. You know, just like we were talking about earlier, if you are subpoenaed by the grand jury, you have to come. You have to come. You can't just ignore it. And that's the power of the grand jury system. Not every grand jury is looking for an indictment. And if you think about it, if a grand jury is impaneled as early as July 2010, you know they weren't looking to indict anybody, because by that point they were thinking Kyron was stashed. They were not thinking he was not alive yet. And so they didn't even know for sure the crimes. They knew a crime had been committed, and criminal activity was to blame for Kyron's disappearance, but it's not like they were actively
They weren't sure
saying
what the crime was.
Yeah, they're not saying jury here.
They didn't know if he was dead or alive, if he had been sold, if he was in hiding, if they just kidnapped him. They didn't know.
And so now, through my new experience at my new job, I even have a little bit better of an understanding of things now. I'm not going to sit here and say I'm an expert, but I do know that, yeah, they totally use it as an investigative tool, like a lot. And it's because of the secrecy. It's because of the subpoena power. They can use the grand jury to subpoena, again, totally secret. And when they do, they actually have to come back and ask the grand jury for permission to view the subpoena results. The grand jury is a huge arm of the investigation. Huge. And like it said in that article, it's led by the DA. So they are, when there's a grand jury impaneled and they're using that as a tool to investigate instead of doing indicting, I just feel like they can, like I said, if they need to talk to people, the police can't force you to talk to them, but the grand jury can.
Yep.
So
exactly. They can force anybody. And that's what we were saying. If they were to subpoena Dede Spicer to talk, that is forcing her to talk, which then gives her immunity. And just like we read earlier, they cannot force nor subpoena their prime suspect, because if they have Terri Horman come in and speak to the grand jury, she automatically gets immunity and cannot be charged for anything. So, I mean, yeah, all of the pieces are just like coming together. This computer and Joseph Cristal's. We've heard about computer evidence since 2017. We didn't know where this computer evidence was coming from, whether or not it was the computer at Terry's and Kane's house or the computer from Dede's house. And now we know this is Joseph Cristal's computer that he had that was actually Terri Horman's computer.
Yeah. Right. And I'm sure that was valuable. Our digital footprints are immense. I mean, there's a reason our data is worth so much, and why there's constant data breaches, and why we're constantly being advertised to, because it's just so valuable. Our data is so valuable, and it can tell the police so many things.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and finish this clip. I just wanted to stop and let you guys know that that's why they're talking about, the grand jury isn't just there just to put out indictments. Sometimes they can be used.
Not in Oregon.
Yep,
Oh,
they can be used
a
as
lot
an
of times.
Yeah. I'm so glad you're working where you're working. It just thrills me.
Me too. My fire is lit every day. I love it.
Written statement goes on to explain detectives are continuing to follow leads.
They are working computer forensic information and evidence that they've gotten that has come to light recently.
Over the past few months, crews have quietly conducted several searches, including this operation on Highway 30 in Northwest Portland.
This search here on Highway 30, I actually found it just from the pictures from Kylie Boshi off of Highway 30 because I wanted to find out where it was. It was a evidence search. They weren't looking for Kyron. They were looking for evidence. And not sure if they actually did find anything, but this is not very far from the Sauvie Island Bridge. It's only like a few miles west of the Sauvie Island Bridge.
Near Sauvie Island, police have long focused their attention on the boy's stepmother, Terri Horman. A judge once described her as a prime suspect. In September, she appeared on Dr. Phil to proclaim her innocence. But victims' rights advocate John Walsh isn't buying it.
I personally believe the stepmom had some knowledge of what happened to Kyron.
Detectives looking into Kyron's disappearance have taken special interest in Terri Horman's recent legal problems in California. She's currently scheduled to go to trial in late June for a misdemeanor gun theft charge. Police say Horman stole her roommate's handgun from his safe. And in an unrelated matter, Horman's former boyfriend took out a restraining order, claiming she threatened him with a knife. Horman has been living and working in Northern California. Sources confirm detectives looking into Kyron's disappearance have traveled there within the past 9 months. They've been following new leads and a trail of suspicion.
I just love
some
so
stuff.
much. Yes, I just love so much that we are able to like put these pieces together. You know what I mean? Like I was explaining to you the other night. It's just like more and more and more of this is coming together. And I really am just hoping and praying that justice is about to get served in Kyron's case. I believe that 100% it's coming. I have no doubt in my mind. And which, by the way, if any of you guys were wondering, the day that Terri deactivated her Facebook, the clip that I played from the Northwest Crime Fest was actually the clip that said a picture taken of Kyron after the school, and Desiree said yes. So it was not long after. I do not think, because if you don't turn up the volume, you can't really hear Rebecca Morris talk in the background and ask Desiree that question. And I don't think that Terri, because she watches and lurks in the background of everything that everybody does, everybody posts. She's out there watching. I don't care if her Facebook's deactivated or not. She is watching. She is probably listening to this. And I really think she heard Desiree Young and Rebecca Morris talking back and forth and heard that the evidence that was found on those burner phones was a picture of Kyron after the school. And I really think it freaked her out. Just my opinion. I'm really trying not to believe that that's exactly what it was, but the fact that she was posting earlier that day, acting
I know, right?
completely normal, and then just shortly after I posted, boom, I've deactivated my Facebook. I'm out of here. You know?
Yeah. I mean, I would be freaked out too, especially if those pictures were deleted and recovered. And she's like, "Oh my God." Like, you know,
Oh my God, they know. Oh my God, they have
yes.
that. Holy
They're like,
shit,
"Oh, I know what picture they're talking about," you know?
And because Kaylee is working at the courthouse and stuff and has been able to figure out like the stuff that they use from Facebook, Instagram, like any of these social media sites and stuff, we know now that even though she deactivated her Facebook, doesn't mean law enforcement can't still see her post and her comments, because law enforcement has access to all of that, whether your Facebook's deactivated or not. So if she thinks that law enforcement doesn't have that information, she's wrong. Besides the fact that I have sent Detective Tabor a ton of information anyway, but that's besides the fact. What she posted and what she commented is still out there for law enforcement.
Yes.
Just
And her
FYI.
original, they confiscated her original Facebook too, guys. Remember that? Like, they completely, I have not come across that. That's an interesting one, but they were able to somehow like put a court order freeze on that Facebook to remain open, not be like deleted off Facebook automatically for inactivity or anything like that. And she can't go in and like reset the password herself. It's totally confiscated in the hands of law enforcement. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That
really
to me means that there's evidence on the actual Facebook itself, like the actual Facebook. And yeah, they probably have the data for it too, but why would they not give her back her account, you know? Like,
there was a lot of really sketchy stuff on her Facebook, like the fact that she would talk, shortly before Kyron came up missing, how she talked about all the bottles of Tylenol that she had.
Yeah,
that
right.
had a recall. Or how about her Facebook post where she's actually talking about Kyron wandering off and not being in the classroom as she's taking pictures of the classroom, saying things like, oh,
Planting
Kyron must have
seeds.
wandered off into, yeah. And then there was even another one that was also really strange. It had something to do with, the window in her daughter's bedroom. I don't know. It just really sounded like some kind of innuendo, some kind of something where I just instantly thought like, oh my gosh, was she going to hurt the baby too? Because she's talking about this loose window in the baby's room and she keeps climbing up near the window. Hopefully she doesn't push the window open and fall out or something like that. And I was just like, whoa, what? And that was like months prior to Kyron disappearing too.
Yeah.
I want to read this. Let's see, because this happened in 2017. Oh, that's not it. Why? Oh, that's because it was way over here. Hold on. I'd already played the beginning of it. In 2017, revealed that the Multnomah County Sheriff's Office was coordinating ground searches and detectives were analyzing new computer evidence. A grand jury continues to hear evidence in Kyron's disappearance and has met. So we kind of already heard that from Kylie Boshi.
Yeah.
But we have now been able to put the computer evidence where, that information needs to go. We know now where that computer evidence come from. We didn't know that before. And let's see. Oh, talk about the domestic violence. I have a clip from that too that Joseph filed with the court.
And stepmom is facing additional charges in California. Terri Horman is accused of domestic violence. Her former boyfriend has filed for a restraining order. He says she threatened him with a knife. NBC5's Elizabeth Ruiz has been looking into these latest updates.
That's right. She joins us live with more from the former boyfriend, as well as reaction from Kyron's mother, Elizabeth.
Craig and Natalie, Kyron Horman went missing back in 2010. His stepmother, Terri Horman, has never been charged or named as a suspect, but she has continued to be a focus for investigators. Now, the new charges are throwing Horman back into the spotlight.
I think that her time is running out, and I think she knows that. We're getting closer and closer to her, and I think that she, rightly so, should be scared.
Kyron's mother, Desiree Young, has long been suspicious of Kyron's stepmom, Terri Horman. Horman appeared on Dr. Phil earlier this year to explain she doesn't know what happened to her 7-year-old stepson after he disappeared from his Portland area school. For a long time, Kyron's case was the only reason people heard about Terri Horman. Now, though, she's back in the news, facing charges and a restraining order in California. Earlier this week, NBC5 learned she's accused of stealing a handgun from her roommate in 2015, then failed to appear in court. Now, we're learning a judge is ordering a temporary restraining order on Horman for claims of domestic violence. A Sacramento man who describes himself as Horman's...
Did that just say that the courts requested the thing
Go
on
back.
domestic? I am going back. I just never heard that. Hold on.
Here in court. Now, we're learning a judge is ordering a temporary restraining order on Horman for claims of domestic violence. A Sacramento man who describes himself as Horman's former domestic partner says, "I'm fearing for my life. I don't even know what she is capable of doing. She put a kitchen knife to my face and threatened something is going to happen to me or my family if I spoke to police." After learning about her latest claims of domestic violence, Young told us in an email, "I'm extremely concerned that someone else will be hurt by Terri Horman before she is put in jail." She goes on to say, "I believe that we need to hold her accountable for all that she has done up to now. She needs to know that she is not above the law."
I believe by ordering they meant like a court order, you know. But it's still interesting because why wasn't she ever officially charged with domestic violence? And based on speculation that we'll talk about in a future live when we have all of our facts straight, I believe it could be because this is all tied so closely, and the fact that police came, like Multnomah County police, went down to California at this time. They were involved with this. They were very interested in what was happening. Again, they spoke with Joseph. They took the computer briefly. They knew that she would have this.
Joseph also told law enforcement when they came down about Terri Horman having burner phones and that she would go out to the car and speak on the burner phones in the car, and he never knew who she was talking to.
Yeah, right. Yep, she had multiple phones even up till then. Just little things that I'm sure helped push this, you know, or maybe even complicated it more, but also pushed it in the right direction because she obviously, she's a criminal to her freaking heart, man. And I'm shocked. I mean, like, I believe Desiree, Lori has said it too. She has done so many crimes. She's been accused of so many crimes. Like, it's going to happen again. And that's why she needs to be put behind bars before something happens, like, and she finds herself in a time where she wants somebody else unalived. You know what I mean? And she asks somebody else to do this for her again.
Well, she went manic in 2015, 16, 17. That's what you and I pretty much call it, is this manic activity where she's going on People's Magazine and talking. She's going over and talking on Dr. Phil. You know, she's stolen this gun, stolen this car. She's, you know, threatening somebody with a knife. She's doing all of these things. And now we're here. Now she's deactivated her Facebook after being on Facebook for a couple of years. It's really suspicious. And we're just wondering if she's about to go on another manic spree.
Right.
You know?
Because she actually loves the Facebook attention. It's something that she thrives off of. So the fact that she like went and hardline just shut it off, that is super telling for Terri's personality type and the way that she conducts herself on Facebook.
And I want to just address some questions of Callie Dimes because I feel like they're all very important. She asks if Terri and Dede are still friends. I believe they still talk.
If you ask them, they would deny it.
Yes, they would deny it to the fullest, but I still believe that they talk. I still believe they find some way to talk. You can actually see in some of Dede's old Twitter posts and stuff, just these real random weird things that she says. It's almost like code talk to me. That's my personal opinion. I believe that that's how they talk. They could even be using like fake Facebook messengers or something. I don't know, but it's all really, really weird. And then
they also, like, throughout the years, Terri has always had these random supporters sprout up, and these people would try to be, or actually successfully befriend Terri, and they would also befriend Dede. And you're going to tell me that the same people are friends with both Terri and Dede? They're going to lunches enough where they're hugging, they have pictures hugging Dede, right? And this same person is good friends with Terri too. Yet Terri and Dede aren't friends, right? They just are, they're forbidden. I highly doubt that.
And here, Callie Dime is saying, spoke to police about what? Well, we believe that Joseph Cristal has a lot more information about what might have happened to Kyron, or that maybe Terri said something at one point or time, but just knows something. We're not sure what that something is, and maybe we're wrong. Maybe there isn't, but we think that he knows something of value that he could tell police, and that's why he's been in hiding ever since they broke up and he got the restraining order, because he's afraid that Terri, she's done all these other murder for hires. So, he himself has been asked to harm somebody for her, which is Stacy Green, the other Kyron Horman advocate. So how is he to know that she isn't going to come after him for something that he knows? So we think he may know something. And then, yes, she has been called a psychopath. Absolutely. And then if you want to look at this timeline again, so we talked about James earlier today, and we've talking about how we feel like this new evidence from these burner phones came about somewhere in 2022. Guess who also crawled out of the woodworks in 2022 on Facebook? James starts talking all over Facebook about his mom's case and everything else. And then what does he end up doing? He ends up collecting women and men, people, to get together to start. I was one of them, you guys. Start getting different case studies up. Let's come up with other possibilities besides my mom did it. Law enforcement isn't going anywhere. Let's try to come up with other case studies. I got in on that, you guys. And now I'm realizing he crawled out of the woodwork right after information off of these cell phones. Whether him or Terri knew about it, whether their attorney knew about it or something, whether just really starting to feel like Terri had James come out for her to do these things. And I mean, and then he starts lying about Kyron's case and stuff anyway, saying that, law enforcement is looking for Kyron overseas. They are not. The detective says it's a local investigation. It is not an overseas investigation. He was never told that by law enforcement. He may have possibly been told, law enforcement has gone overseas one time to see if a boy was Kyron, but he wasn't. But he was never told by law enforcement that they're looking for Kyron overseas. He wasn't sold. There's no money trail here. A lot of people believe that he was sold, but he was not, as far as the evidence goes. But yeah, that was another 2022 moment after all of this that came out. So it's just really weird. I have just one more clip actually from the Northwest Crime Fest talking about the news conference that I actually forgot to play, because this is like early on. The news conference happened just a couple of weeks after, or a week after Kyron came up missing. This is the first news conference, and Desiree talks about this news conference and what happened with Terri, and mentions Bob O'Donnell, which is actually the detective that was on Kyron's case in 2002. I really hope that you guys are able to keep up with our nonsense when we're like going back and forth and talking about things. There wasn't like a real timeline here. because there was just so much to talk about, and we wanted to take one subject and talk about one subject of evidence and then talk about another. So the two are the information getting taken off the burner phones, and now we know that this computer has to do with Joseph Cristal and Terry's computer that he turned over to law enforcement. But anyway, this is what she spoke about at the news conference.
Everybody's probably very familiar with that. It was the only time that I saw Terri show any kind of palpable, it wasn't emotion, it was, I think, fear that she was going to be arrested. I think it was more about her, but it was the only time I ever saw her express or see visually what was going on inside.
I had to add pictures here because Desiree Young mentions and talks about what we all have talked about before: how guilty, how scared, how just not right Terri Horman looks throughout the entire news conference. This is when I hear it all the time in our Facebook group. I knew Terri was guilty the moment I saw her at the news conference. I thought that. I know many other people that have thought that. I hear it all the time. And I just put some clips here of Terri Horman's face, what she looked like that day. Just scared. This one, she's almost like looking up at Kane, like, can you see that I'm like trying to feel something here? Are you paying attention to me? I don't know. This look is just weird. And then, of course, the one picture that gets everybody, the way she's hanging on Desiree Young. Desiree Young actually speaks about it here in a second. But the way she hangs on her, Desiree Young never pays any attention to her, never reciprocates the hugs, the touches back, nothing. Matter of fact, she puts her arms in front of her, squeezes her own body like she's hugging herself and pulling away from Terri, like, get the hell off me.
Yeah, to me, that is a huge indicator that Terri really wanted to win over Desiree's thoughts. Like, this is like an attempt to, I don't know, make herself seem like genuine. But because why wouldn't she give her husband, like, why, Tony and Desiree, I don't know. I know Tony was speaking, so Desiree was kind of like up there. She would have been alone if Kane and Terri were embracing, but you watch that and it's so uncomfortable and it just reads like, again, not genuine at all.
No.
Not genuine at all. Forced AF, and guilty. It looks like she is trying to, just like you'd lie to police. Believe what I'm saying, but what your body language is saying something completely different, And
Yeah,
it's
it's
to me,
crazy.
it's because Desiree from the get-go was probably hawk-eyeing Terri, like, where the F is my son, from the very beginning. And Terri probably subconsciously knew this is going to be one of my biggest hurdles, is Desiree.
Well, even Desiree herself has said that she feels like this news conference opened Terry's eyes to the fact that, Kyron isn't just going away. He's a beautiful young boy with beautiful eyes, beautiful smile. People say goofy grinning, big ears with his glasses and everything. He's absolutely beautiful. And she knew right then, in this scared moment, Kyron was not going to go away. And it ended up turning into the largest search in Oregon's history, the largest criminal investigation in Oregon's history. But Desiree Young herself, I'd never heard her mention how Terri was acting, and it was acting, at this press conference. And she's going to go on to talk about this a little bit more.
I thought it was the only moment that she would talk. Terri was big on, and for whatever reason, she always wanted to prove a point, whether it was me or somebody else. She's big on that, and she's
She is so big on that. She has to prove her point. She's been doing it for the last couple years on her on Facebook, on that Facebook group. Anybody that has to say anything about anything, she is in there correcting. She's in there talking. She's in there making a point, just like Desiree's saying here, making a point to either flip it in her direction and deflect, or talk about it and mixing it up to confuse people, because that's what she wants to do. Cause confusion in the case, make you think there's other options besides her as being a suspect. And she's been doing this and started making the Multnomah County Sheriff's Office actually chase their tails for the first couple of days because of her constant narrative that she was trying to throw out there about what could happen or could have happened to Kyron.
expert, she knows it all and all the things. Well, as we were entering the side room of the church just after the conference, she put her hand on me and was trying to talk to me. And I, at that moment, couldn't do that. I was at my limit, and I looked at Tony and I looked at Mary, the sergeant, and I said, you need to get her off me because I'm gonna kill her. And I think that had an impact on her. And she didn't like it, right? And they rushed her out the back door because they could see that I'm like there. So we go out the back and she's already in the van. We hop in the van, they shut the doors, and we're out there for a couple of seconds. And I think it was by design, I think it was orchestrated, but I don't know that because of the dramatic delay that it took. And so then all of a sudden the van door opens up. And I look, and it's Will, the detective that was groomed and like super perfect for her type, like awesome. Love Will, that's not his real name. And then Bob. Bob is the husband to the new sheriff of Multnomah County. Bob O'Donnell is awesome. He's not in Camp Terry, and I love him for that. He can't even fake it, right? And Bob was there with Will. And Bob said, oh no, Terri, you're coming with me to be interviewed. You could see her immediately shut down. It was gone. Terri was back and it was gone. It was done at that moment. Yep. So Will, the good cop, wasn't taking her, but Bob, the bad cop, not in Camp Terry, that cop was taking her. And she immediately shut down. And I believe that that was a pivotal moment in our case. And I speak to that when I'm training. Do what you do. You're not going to call an electrician to fix your plumbing problem. If you have that one investigator who's known for flipping people, known for getting people to talk, you use that guy for your interviews. You do that because it will make or break your case. Like, you have to use the person that's the expert in that moment.
Yeah, Desiree has talked before about how the person that sat down with Terri and interviewed her kind of blew it, kind of messed things up. And this is what she's kind of saying here. There's Bob O'Donnell, which was the original detective in Kyron's case, and then there's this other guy there. This other guy's nice looking and everything else. You know, like they were saying, like, we have talked about Terri and how she uses her sexuality, you know, to charm people and everything else. Well, when the one guy, the good guy, came up to the van, Terri was still being, whatever. And Desiree and everybody's thinking, oh my gosh, this might work. Maybe she'll talk because she's been acting this whole way during this press conference. And, she can use her sexuality here to like get the attention of this detective. And then, oh no, here comes Bob O'Donnell. Like, oh no, you're coming with me. I'm going to interview you. So Desiree has spoke before about if you have a good detective that's good at pulling things from people and everything, like you use them. And this good cop bad cop thing kind of that was being used here kind of like backfired, because as soon as Terri got interviewed, she just completely shut down. Matter of fact, Desiree just says here she completely shut down as soon as she found out that it was going to be Bob O'Donnell that took her in to interview her. It wasn't going to be this good looking, detective that she had already tried flirting with before in the past. During one of her other interviews, they talked about how she got like all dressed up in a blouse and jeans and high heels and all of this other stuff, when Terri Horman usually only wears like yoga pants and t-shirts. And if you look at all of the pictures that neighbors and that people have been taking of Terri down in Clear Lake, or even here in Roseburg in Oregon, when she was followed and looked at all the time by all of the different people that were looking for her, for Stacy Green and for Desiree, she was always in yoga pants and blouses. And why would you be putting on a blouse and jeans and high heels and putting lipstick on to go talk to an investigator? A child's missing here. You don't need to look perfect. I would be walking in there a complete mess. I mean, PJs and slippers. I don't know. You know what I mean?
Right. Especially if you're like exhausted from not sleeping, you are in a high stress situation. It just seems strange. It seems like inappropriate,
Right.
for the it's like read the room here. But again, she knew, or at least she thought, that her sexuality and her looks were going to get her far and get her out of it. I'm sure, because that has been her fallback forever.
Yeah,
it literally has. I mean, some of the rumors, and I mean, not even rumors, her graphic sex messages with with Michael Cook are very graphic. She's not shy. She is vulgar and cringy, and there's been ties. I don't have the spoons to go deep in this conversation because I'm not prepared to like go full, but I'm pretty sure there's been ties to her and her friends in the BDSM community. So she's not shy sexually. That's what I'm just trying to say here. She is not a prude, and she thinks that makes. I mean, some of the stuff that Lori told us was on that computer, which I'm pretty sure we talked about in that live that you clipped earlier, the one that we had Lori on. She talks about some of the sexual graphic things that are on that computer that Lori saw with her own eyes, and it's like, what the hell, Terri? Like, this sounds like straight up out of a 90s porno magazine, dude.
Yeah, pictures of Terri with a cucumber. We'll just say that. Like, it just, and she even went on to make up her own rumors about how she was having sexual relations with police officers and detectives at the Multnomah County Sheriff's Office, and that's one of the reasons why they are against her and why they're coming after her. And that was all just rumor, none of it being true. Those are things she was even just, trying to convince Joseph of. And it ended
anything
up
to deflect blame from her in any way. That's her MO.
Yeah, I am so glad to be back. We are super excited to bring you guys a ton of new information. We are going to be working on other children's cases too.
And
be
sure to hit the little notification bell so you can get notified when we do go live, or you can join us on Facebook at Kyron Horman Case Revisited, where we'll talk about, the upcoming lives we have planned. But yeah, it's really nice to get back into the swing of things after adjusting. Part of the reason, like summer normally is just kind of, you just fly by the seat of your pants, now that we're kind of all back to our schedules again, I am so excited to get back to doing lives and research and bringing information to you guys. And it's not easy to bring quote unquote new information to a 14-year-old case, but man, we're so excited to do so in the coming weeks. So yeah, be sure to hit the notification bell and join us on Facebook if you haven't already.
Yep, Kyron Horman Case Revisited on Facebook. And Ima, are you talking about Dee Dee's cousin Tom? Did he live over there on Sauvie Island? I'm just wondering because I don't know.
I'm not sure either.
Yeah, I'm not sure what cousin of hers lived over there on Sauvie Island, but I would love to hear more information on what you have, because I have been trying to figure out this one house that I know was searched right off of the main road in Sauvie Island. I actually recently found where one of the people that lived in that house had spoken to reporters. I know her cousin Tom has spoken about conversations he's had with Dee Dee, and he thinks that Dee Dee is guilty in some way, shape, or form. But I don't know if he lives on Sauvie Island, and that's the only cousin that I'm aware of in the case. I am way behind, so if anyone answers my question, I'll have to reply when I catch up. No worries. Yeah, I was just kind of curious if you knew the name of the cousin. If you know the name of the cousin that you're talking about, I would love to hear from you.
Right. The only one we know of is Tom, like you said. But yeah, you can find Samantha and private message her on Facebook.
Yep.
I love your username, by the way. I'm a meme girl.
Meme girl.
Every time you comment in our things, that brings me a little chuckle. I just think that's clever.
So, Kyron Horman's been missing since June 4th, 2010. Terri Horman was the last known person to be with Kyron, see Kyron alive. If you have any information about his whereabouts, if you know anything that Dee Dee and Terri has told you that you've heard, if you saw either of their cars driving around prior to Kyron's disappearance, law enforcement would love to hear from you. If you have any kind of footage from way back then in 2010, law enforcement would love to have that footage. If you just have any information whatsoever, please call the Multnomah County Sheriff's Office tip line at 503-988-0560. We cannot have these live shows without you guys, so thank you for being here. If you guys ever have any questions, please come over to our Facebook group, Kyron Horman Case Revisited, where we will share all of our information from this live. Will be posted up over there. I do random TikToks with information that I find from news clips and stuff, and I constantly put them in reels. I also do that here on YouTube, so you can see that over there. We have discussions over there. Within the last couple of years, more and more people are talking about Kyron, which is great. He is getting so much awareness. We are really starting to get a lot of people coming over into our group. We're having more people even show up to our lives. So we really encourage you, if you want to know more about his case, just come over to our Facebook group and you can start scrolling through all of the information there, or you can start by the lives and videos here on YouTube and just start watching them and clicking them. You'll learn everything you need to know about Dee Dee and Terri, how conniving they are, the liars that they are, how deceptive and deceiving they are.
And a lot of debunked rumors that you've probably heard. If you use the search bar, there's a good chance Samantha, Heidi, or I have taken the time to post about it and debunk it. So yeah, and we would love to be a resource for you if you have questions, you need help fact checking a rumor you've heard or a detail you've heard. That's something Samantha, Heidi, and I pride ourselves in, is our ability to go and find, is there a way to fact check this information or not, and get to the very, very nitty gritty, itty bitty bottom of it. And that's what we do. So yeah, use us as a resource, because let's just say we totally get how confusing and complex this case is. There are so many layers and directions, and it's a complex 14-year long, like, tangled web. But we
I
would
know.
love to be a resource.
I love the fact that he gets so much awareness, but I have a hard time watching a lot of other people's lives
I
because they
know.
get so much wrong. I just
Right.
sit there and cringe, but it
Me
is what it
too.
is.
I
You
say
know,
the same thing. I'm like, you know what? I just have to appreciate the awareness, but this is what I call scratching the surface. It's not taking that time to really find out, where did this come from? Where's the source of this rumor? Where's the source of this? And thankfully, having a research team of Samantha, myself, and Heidi working together, the three of us have a great chemistry, and our brain powers, it's just like, yes, every time we are able to get really deep into things, and it feels great to bring a lot of, like, truth and deep research to Kyron's case, to explain things like why things work this way. Like, for instance, this is an example: polygraphs. People say all the time polygraphs can't be used in court, but if you pass a polygraph, you can use a past polygraph in court. You can use that if you're in. That's funny, right? So if Terri really did pass a polygraph, like she likes to say, she says that she was never actually shown that she failed. To me, that's insinuating she doesn't believe she failed.
yeah, and in another message, she actually says, well, I technically only took one. And then in another one, she says, well, nobody passed their polygraph tests. Nobody's been cleared. Yeah.
Yeah, she is not a good source of information. She's not credible. And yeah, join our Facebook, watch our lives, and you'll see why. And before we head out for the night, Samantha did mention that in between our lives for Kyron, we will be covering other cases for other missing kids. We love to bring awareness to cases that need the awareness because they're still unsolved or unresolved. So if you have the cases, especially cases that are in the Pacific Northwest, put them in the comments. Like, let us know, and we'll see if we can do some research on them, bring some awareness. And yeah, we would love to cover cases that are not as well known as Kyron's, to help just spread that message and utilize Kyron's community for the greater good of justice for all, right? So
Right.
yeah, let us know in the comments.
And some of the children too, like, I have been doing a lot of things with Michael Vaughn's case for like the last month and a half, 2 months. I've been working with someone and really diving into some new information. So that might be coming along here soon, and hopefully indictments will go out on all 4 suspects there. Another boy from the Pacific Northwest is Cody Haynes. He ended up coming up missing a long time ago that we want to talk about. We've already started talking about the Amy Mahalovic case, and we're going to finish up with the suspects that are in the Amy Mahalovic case, and move forward with that one, and kind of scratch that little case off of the list, and then just come back for reminders on Amy's case. And another one that we're really interested in looking at is the Lindsay Baum case, because even though her skull and her body was found, well, her skull was found on the mountain here in Washington, the people or person that killed Lindsay is still out there running free, and she came up missing in an area that's between here and my daughter's house. So when I frequently visit my daughter, I'm going to actually start taking videos like I do of Kyron and his area, his surrounding areas. I want to take some videos from the Lindsey Baum area to see if I can't spark some interest
yeah,
or spark a
because
memory of somebody out there that may have seen something. You know,
sometimes all it takes is the case running across the right screen, right? In this day and age, everybody's connected to some kind of technology device, and that is sometimes all it takes. And these old cases that have just been sitting unresolved, and they probably do have things going on behind the scenes, they just need that one piece that they feel confident, okay, we got this, let's go make our arrest, let's go bring justice. That is what these cases need. So yeah, that will be awesome to see. I know you've been mentioning that, and I look forward to seeing those when you get a chance.
yeah, I've already reached out to Lindsey Baum's mom, but I don't know if she didn't just get my message, if I had the wrong phone number or something. I plan on reaching out a little bit more, but you know, sitting in the background and not trying to get a hold of people and not interview people just doesn't seem like something I want to do anymore. I know Kaylee doesn't want to do it either. We're ready to like become way more involved as far as like talking with people that are actually involved in these cases, getting interviews from them, just finding out just things, because no matter what it really comes down to is awareness. Whether we scratch the surface, whether we deep dive, because we can't deep dive every case, because look how long we've been deep diving Kyron's
Right.
case.
And we're
I've been
still
doing
finding stuff.
Yes, and I've been deep diving Kyron's case for years, and even more so since Kaylee started with me 6 months ago. So we'll be deep scratching the surface. How about that? With a lot of these cases, just to get a lot of awareness out there, especially for some of these kids who came up missing, that have been missing for a long time. And I actually just watched Justin yesterday. I don't know if you know about this girl, and now I can't remember her name. She's a little girl who came up missing, walking away from her home. I'm looking it up right now on my phone, but I will talk about it. She walked away from her house with her backpack, with her stuff, like she was going to be running away from home or something. And 25 years later, okay, let me see if I can find this. Why isn't it pulling up? Hold on. I need to find I thought it was on Clutch Them Pearls with Justin.
Maybe.
Oh, now it's gonna drive me crazy.
Oh man. Well, while you're looking, I lost my train of thought for a moment, but it came back to me because you said something that made me think of something. Like you said, we kind of feel more like getting involved is great. And in our experience, just like I mentioned earlier, we hope to be able to go into more detail about what I mentioned about hearing from somebody that was there that morning that saw Kyron, that was one of the last people to see him in the actual classroom. They want to get their story out, in our opinions, and it's like 14 years. We are just like Desiree, like we are ready to start talking about this, and like let's bring justice where justice is due.
Her name is Asia, is it Asia Degree? 25.
I feel like I've heard of that. Actually, yes,
Yeah.
I have heard of that one.
In
100%.
1990. Yeah, in 2000, excuse me. In the year 2000, she came up missing. So here, just within the last few weeks, 25 years later, you guys, they went to the property of a home where they think New information, I believe, came out. I don't know all of the information. Please, if I get something wrong, I'm sorry. I just watched a little bit of Justin's show. But Justin said something about somebody on their deathbed, like a deathbed confession of some sort, led
Jeez.
investigators to this property, and they took this car from there and towed it away. And this car is the same kind of car that was described being as the car pulled over to the side of road that could have been the car that picked Asia up off of the side of the road 25 years ago. This is what I'm talking about. You bring awareness to these children, you talk and you talk and you talk about it until something pops up. You know, something's got to break someday. You know, we've got one of our commenters here talking about, you know, karma. It is the perfect murder until it's not, like you said earlier. Like, you know, I saw on that show, we see on the Forensic Files and in other, you know, true crime shows like I'm obsessed with, that cases get solved 40 or 50 years later. So we just got to keep trying to bring awareness to all these missing children. And, you know, this is what we can do. It's not about clout. It's not about getting attention. It's definitely not to get paid. I'm a very small channel over here. We're not about, you know, making a lot of money over here with our 2,000 or 3,000 subscribers, which
all that
I love. All of you guys have all become like my family and friends, and I love that. But it's just because we feel like we're doing something really great here. We feel like bringing awareness to these kids is a great thing, you know, and you never know. It could just take one little video, one person saying one thing, one person watching at the right time, and a child gets found, or something pops loose with an investigator or something, you know?
Yeah, Netflix has found a missing kid with a documentary. There's been podcasts that have totally broken cases wide open. And it is the true crime community. It's like, you know, it's one of my favorite YouTubers that I love to watch. She always says, "Thank you for your support while we are on our journey to become worthy advocates." That is how I feel to a T, because that's what it's about, right? Being a worthy advocate, truth, justice, and doing things with love. That's basically how I run my ship over here.
Well, yeah, and you know, another thing, it reminds me of Dr. Gary and Chris Madonna. You know, they remind me when they're out there talking about everything that they're doing and everything. Some of the stuff that happens to these children after they're kidnapped or after they're lost or taken or they run away or they end up dead or murdered or whatever, the things that happen to them aren't talked about. And it's hard to talk about some of these subjects, but guess what? It has to be talked about. You can't ignore these situations, even though, you know, kidnapping from a stranger doesn't happen often. It does happen. Look at the Michael Vaughn case. There's 4 suspects that kidnapped him on July 27th, 2021. So things just have to be talked about. That's how I feel. Even if it's a hard topic, even, you know, it's like the worst case scenario, like Elijah View. His body's now been found. We know that his mom took him to her boyfriend so that he could discipline her little baby. I mean, like, what is he, 2 or 3 years old? And discipline him, make him a man. He doesn't want to listen. And then there are pictures of Elijah beaten and bruised up. He was forced into standing for hours at a time when he didn't want to listen. He wasn't even getting fed properly. And here his body is being found because his mom has decided that she wants to give up information so that, you know, she can get a deal. And this is months and months and months later. You know, there's just so many cases. And yeah, you don't want to talk about the details, just like the Madeline Soto case. Who wants to talk about the details in that case? Nobody.
Yeah, I know,
I mean,
right? They're
even
horrendous to
Stephen
think
Stearns,
about.
Yes, he's ridiculous. I have a lot of her court paperwork here. I know everything that is, was on his phone. I have the whole, and it's disgusting.
But you know what? It's important because the awareness, the details, even though, of course, it's hard to think about, it really happened. Maddie is really a victim of what we are seeing, and we need to talk about that to help protect other children.
Yeah, and it's not that we don't want to get caught up either in these great big, high profile cases. Like I've talked about a little bit with the Madeline Soto case, and I was wanting new information to come out. But right now, Grizzly True Crime's doing such an amazing job covering the Madeline Soto. Like, why would I even touch it? I would rather just send everybody over to Grizzly True Crime, go watch everything she's been putting out there. She's got all the videos, she's got everything, all of the interviews with the mom, with Stephen Stearns, with the roommate that lived there at the house, with the person that actually called in the tip that found Madeline Soto. She has all of this information out there, and it would either be me doing her case and repeating exactly what Grizzly True Crime has done, or just, hey, go over and watch Grizzly True Crime. She's doing an amazing job. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the Madeline Soto case, it has so many layers, and it is such a touchy subject. It's just hard. But high profile cases, that's really great, but there's lots of people already talking about them. So why not just pick some that aren't so high profile, I guess is what I'm saying. Give the awareness where awareness is needed.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly how I feel too. And I agree with you. There's a lot of really great people and creators and advocates who are covering those high profile cases. Kyron is our original, I would say. And that's why we're so dedicated. And I feel like we came at a time where there really wasn't any recent YouTube videos being made or anything, or podcasts. And now it's popping up all the time. And that feels awesome. It feels awesome to know that, to be part of that community that is literally helping make a difference. I mean, I'm seeing it before my own eyes. How many, we're, look at this new one, look at this new one. Even small creators like us that are, taking the time to do a Kyron podcast. They're joining our group to get information and covering Kyron. It's like, yes, this is exactly why it is worth it to spend the hours, spend the money. We are investing our own money to obtain information in the case, legal documents, printing flyers. We provided 1,000 flyers in June for Kyron's 14th anniversary on June for that.
And I just started spending my own money. I just went and got some more laminate stuff to put on the flyers, the other ones that you ended up giving me, because now that it's raining outside, I need to go hang up laminate ones so that they stay good for a while, because the ones we post over the summer are probably just going to get really super wet and fall apart and stuff. Which, by the way, I'm in Cali. I am watching you guys' conversation go by over here, and it sounds like you need to private message one of us and talk to us and let us know more about everything you were doing for Kyron and what your situation was, and who these people are that were following you and all of this other stuff, because that's just crazy.
Yes, please do. Please let us know. I'm not sure if you're in our group. I don't recognize your picture. I'm a meme girl, but please find us and reach out, because that is something that, if you haven't yet, that might be relevant. That might be something the detective wants to know,
Yeah, and I can get you in touch with the detective, or
I was about to say that. We can give you his information so you can email it, make it easy and all that. I know we've been chatting a lot. I do have to get up really early to take my friend to the airport. So I have to head out for the night, but I really am so grateful to be able to be on this live again. I missed you all. And this was an awesome show. It felt really good to talk about. And again, like you said, see the puzzle pieces starting to fit together of these little details that we've heard on the fringe. Now, well, hey, when you look back, they were there all along. We just didn't have those details to put them together yet. So it's been a great live, and thank you all for supporting us and listening. And I hope you all have a good rest of your weekend.
Yep, you have a good weekend too. Thank you so much for being here and working with me and working, well, all of us working together. Like I said earlier, Heidi was supposed to be here, but she had some issues
Hopefully
with
on the
her
next
asthma.
one. We hope to have her join us soon because she is a big part of our team. I mean, like
huge.
Truly, we are the trifecta over here.
She does so much research, and she's our quiet, timid, we're trying to get her to not be so quiet and timid, but she'll come out, and when she does, you guys are going to love her. Absolutely love her. But yeah, we're going to say goodnight, everybody, and thank you guys for being here. If you guys have any tips on Kyron's case, please call the Multnomah County Sheriff's Office, and yeah, stay tuned. We have a feeling there's going to be a lot more new information on Kyron, and there's a lot of good stuff coming here soon. We're hoping to get lots of interviews with some people, so stay tuned, you guys, and we love you guys, and we appreciate you guys being here, because without all of you, we cannot do this. Connie, thank you so much for being here, being our mod tonight. We appreciate you so very much, girlfriend.
Yes.
It was nice seeing you here, and yeah, we'll see everybody on the down low. We'll speak to you guys later. Have a good night.
Bye.
Bye.